Good evening, everybody. It's Wednesday. This is the hang up right here on the line. Apologies in advance. I'm sick. I took most of the day off. And sometimes the show makes me feel better. As soon as we get in and we start doing the things that I love, when people start calling in and we can actually have conversations, especially if we get good callers, I tend to feel better. But I'm definitely way off my game tonight. So if tonight sucks, don't take it out on my guest or the producer or the call screeners or even the callers. It's entirely me being ill and dropping the ball. The good news is that I'm in a weakened state. So if you're out there as a defender of MAGA or a god or the supernatural or right-wing politics in general or anything else that I would normally shred without any effort, I'm tonight's your chance to call in and try out your defense on the slow and weakened version of me. I'm not in my final state. I'm not going to go Super Saiyan on your ass or anything like that. But I did some investigating over the week, and I figured out why the MAGA folks are afraid to call in. I still haven't completely figured out why the theists are more and more afraid to call in, but it might be related. MAGA's afraid to call in because the Make America Great movement is completely falling apart and feuding at nearly every level. It's tempting to say things like, oh, they're finding out who they really elected. But the truth is, they already know. They already knew. It's been a long time since anyone could even pretend to have some justification for not knowing the monster and the fascists that they have put into power. But now it's all crumbling down in a very visible fashion, and they fundamentally know that they look ridiculous trying to defend any of this. And what's funny is that the fighting between the wings of MAGA is essentially about who isn't awful enough. More often than not, that's what we get to, is who isn't awful enough. I've got some news bits I'm going to go through, and then I'll bring in my guest, and then we'll be taking your calls. If you want to call in to tonight's show, the number is right down at the bottom of the screen, 720-619-2288. There's also a link there to a web link where you can call in that way to see if there's people who are willing to defend any of this. What did I get wrong? What have I missed out on? Because when I say, this is beyond impossible for them to defend. Defend what, you say? Well, that's easy. A reporter asked Trump about the Epstein files on Air Force One, and Trump leaned in, pointed his finger at her, and said, "Quiet, quiet, piggy." Now, this is a journalist asking a legitimate question, not only one that is one of the most prominent news stories of the day, but it is legitimate questions. And that's what, of course, pisses Trump off, that this Epstein stuff didn't go away like he'd like it to. And reporters who are there doing their job are now going to ask him the questions that make him uncomfortable. And he, being a megalomaniacal powermonger and ostensibly the most powerful person in the world other than Stephen Miller and whoever Trump's other handlers are, that's how the walls are breaking down, and you can watch him. Even he's doing the quiet part out loud. Quiet, quiet, piggy. This is really strange. If you're in MAGA and you're about family values, and we keep pointing out all the problems with him, but it's not strange to anybody who's been following this and paying attention to what he's said and done the entire time. First of all, he mocks journalists at the drop of a hat. He has no respect for journalists, and anybody who dares to say anything against him is fake news and a bad journalist and a bad person. He did that in addition to the quiet, piggy remark. He had the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman in the Oval Office, and a reporter dared to point out that there are, because of Saudi Arabia's ties to 9/11, there are families that are really upset that he's here and in the Oval Office, and noted that the 2021 Director of National Intelligence concluded that the Crown Prince had approved the murder and butchering of Jamal Khashoggi, a Washington Post columnist. Now, Trump got very upset, praised the prince, and chastised the reporter, another woman. Big surprise. He's got a problem with women. Chastised the reporter as a bad reporter and a bad person, and called her out for being rude to our guest. He's not our guest, Mr. President. He's your guest. I'd rather not have leaders of countries that are slaughtering people and staging actions against the United States and violating basic civil rights, and it's wild. It's all money. It's all transactional. The right wing is terrified of Mamdani, who's just the mayor of New York. Oh, he's a Muslim. Yeah, and he's pretty far fucking left. He's a democratic socialist. He's not the Muslim they should be afraid of. The Muslims they should be afraid of are the ones that are being invited into the Oval Office and lauded. They're the ones that we're working with in partnership around the world to make sure that we keep billionaires getting more billionary. Maybe see if we can turn some billionaires into trillionaires. Yes, I heard about the Musk thing. He's not a trillionaire, but I know what you mean. A far left Muslim, socialist, democratic socialist, is, they think, going to bring Sharia law to the United States. And they're worried about that as opposed to the fact that we're funneling money to dictators and regimes around the world. We're working out billion-dollar, trillion-dollar deals that help enrich the rich. Further enrich the rich, I guess, it's hard to say it now. A billion here, a trillion there. One of these days, somebody's really going to be rich. And Trump chastises and shames journalists for daring to ask about this corruption. Should your family be, doing business with these people while you're in office? Well, I'm not in the family business. Okay. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. He's never been good with reporters. Never been good with journalists, and he's never been good with women. You remember when he went after Megyn Kelly back in 2015, when she was one of the people running that debate, and he suggested, or he said, that she had blood coming out of her eyes and blood coming out of her wherever. Well, Megyn Kelly remembers and doesn't care at all. She's still selling the MAGA party line no matter what. You can say whatever you want about Megyn Kelly. He's right to point out that she was a terrible journalist because she folded like a bad lawn chair. And that's why she's laying the groundwork for the people who are protecting the child rapists, for saying that all these child traffickers, they're not pedophiles, they're ephebophiles. You see, they just like teens. It's not like they're going after 8-year-olds. This is what Megyn Kelly is saying. She's making excuses for a dead sex trafficker on behalf of the people who are trying to defend him and hide all of his associations and their action, compliance, complicitness in it. She's the mother of a 14-year-old daughter. She's a reporter who was berated by this president, and she's trying to defend all this by saying, hey, it's one thing to go after 14-year-olds. At least they're not 8. What happened to these people? What information does somebody have? What ice cream scooped magically came in and scooped out a good chunk of their brain that contains anything at all like an ethics module. Yes, there's a difference between pedophilia and ephebophilia, and nobody should give a shit. Because it's not the attraction that is necessarily the thing that somebody should be shamed for anyway. There are plenty of people who experience those attractions and don't act on them and seek help, and they should be able to go get help. It's the actions that matter. And so what is Megyn Kelly really saying? Oh, it's okay to sexually traffic, I'm going to use a phrase and then I'm going to correct it, underage women, as long as they're not too underage. That's kind of what she's implying. And by the way, think about it. Do you ever hear the phrase underage men? I don't. They need to be called what they are. These are little girls. These are little boys. These are children. These people are trafficking children. Laura Loomer has acknowledged that the GOP has a Nazi problem after the Heritage Foundation defended Tucker Carlson's interview with Nick Fuentes, a white supremacist. Nick Fuentes is also proclaiming the end of MAGA. And now you've got Laura Loomer acknowledging that they have a Nazi problem, although the way she phrased it, it's not clear if her main concern is that they're not Nazi enough. What a weird world. Will we see the Epstein files? Maybe. They released the ones from the estate, 20,000 documents. There's a searchable web link you can go to, and you can do a search for anybody's name and any phrase. And I have it up. I've done some searches over there. It's wild. My name is not in there. Although several people I've shared stages with, their names are in there. As predicted. Some of them are in there many, many times. Not that being in the files in any way demonstrates that they have done something illegal or knew about something illegal, but when you start taking a look at who's running in these circles, what they're advocating for, there's a lot of questions and concerns. It's very weird to know people whose names appear in there. What state will the files be in if we get to see them? We don't know. You see, the thing is, Trump has intervened now. Trump could just release the Epstein files. He's terrified of them, but he's not, and he doesn't care. It's a Democratic hoax that makes no sense and can't be a hoax, given the dates of the messages and what was going on. Evidently, the Democratic hoax involves a time machine and some incredible planning. But Trump's now ordered their release. Oh, wait, no, he hasn't. He could, but instead what he suggested was, after throwing a fit and figuring out, reading the writing on the wall, that this was absolutely going to happen. And after trying to get Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert and others to change their vote, and trying to harangue some other Republicans to change their vote on this, recognizing that this was going to be inevitable, he decided to do you should all vote. I'm saying the Republicans should vote for that. We've got nothing to hide. This is Democratic host. So the Republicans, you can go ahead and vote for it. So all of them that were keeping the government shut down, all of them that were terrified of all this, all of them that didn't want to do anything or say anything, all of them have now been freed by the president to vote to begin the process to release those documents. Why? Why did they need the approval of the president to do that? Why were they not concerned about this for all this time up until Daddy said they could do it? If Trump wants these things released, why did he resist for so long? If he's innocent, why wait? If it's a hoax, why are you investigating a hoax? And by the way, he's not investigating a hoax. He's instructed Pam Bondi to investigate Democrats in the Epstein files. That's not the way investigations work. That's not the way the legal system works. That is an open admission that you are actively targeting your political opponents. The correct thing to do is to say, this needs to be investigated, and everyone involved who has done something illegal, whether Democrat, Republican, independent, green, socialist, communist, whatever, all of them should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. The very notion that you could direct the Department of Justice to specifically go out and investigate the Democrats and say this publicly demonstrates the depths of depravity that Trump and MAGA have gone to. Every accusation from them is an admission. Ooh, the country's being run by a pedophile ring. Well, it wasn't, but it is now. Ooh, the Democrats are weaponizing the justice system. Well, they weren't, but you certainly are. The Democrats are trying to rig election. Well, they weren't, but you certainly were. And then you pardoned the people like Rudy Giuliani. And you pardoned the insurrectionists. And you pardoned the congressman that lied and committed fraud, or whatever the actual accusation was. If it's mostly Democrats in there, why didn't you release it? And why would there be a Democratic hoax that mostly incriminates Democrats? The lies are so obvious. Only stupid people can believe this. He goes in for an MRI. What's he say when asked about it? The doctors, I don't know why they did an MRI. The doctor said it was the most perfect result he's ever seen. Bullshit. Nobody fucking believes this. This is a petulant little child that was never told no. He's a liar, and everybody knows it. Even Marjorie Taylor Greene is acknowledging it now and has suggested that he might be a traitor in the service of foreign governments. She's also talking about how her life is now in danger and that she's had to hire security after Trump publicly disavowed her and ostracized her. She is now Marjorie Traitor Greene, or in a weird sense, Marjorie Traitor Brown, and he had to explain his clever little nickname because green things turn brown when they're rotten. Ooh. It's always good to explain the joke. Good job. Weirdly, Marjorie Taylor Greene has been hated by the left, has advocated for some absolutely delusional, hateful things, Jewish space lasers, mocked and interrupt Biden, and is now running around apologizing and saying she wants to do better and get away from the toxic politics. But you know what? The entire time that she was hated by the left, she didn't need security and didn't feel that her life was in danger. That didn't happen until she crossed the Führer. Now, I'm not buying into the conspiracy theories, but you don't have to. All you have to do is watch and pay attention. Watch what he's saying. Watch what he's doing. Watch who he's giving money to. Our money, your money. Money that could be used to help our people. Watch who he's helping out, who he's celebrating, who he's applauding, who he's praising, who he's defending. And then take a look at who's paying the price. We're going to kill people in boats from Venezuela, maybe, who may or may not be guilty of some crime with no due process, no demonstration that they've done anything. And even if they had done the thing they're accused of, the penalty isn't death, and they weren't under our jurisdiction at the time. We're going to give billions of dollars to Argentina. Oh, and we're also going to give them the opportunity to sell off their crops that we can't sell because of the tariffs with China. Oh, the tariffs aren't causing things to be too expensive, but he lowered and removed tariffs specifically to lower the price. How fucking stupid do you MAGA people have to be to not see? Oh, tariffs didn't raise the price at all, But he'll knock the tariffs down to lower the prices. Our farmers, our families, our friends, Americans, both citizens and residents, who deserve the full protection of the law and the respect and protection of the president, are all at a lower tier from the perspective of this administration of elitists than are foreign dictators, billionaires, sex traffickers, child rapists, insurrectionists, individuals who've tried to steal elections, fraudulent representatives. And the White House even intervened back in February when Andrew Tate and his brother landed on February 27th. There's a report that a White House official told senior Department of Homeland Security officials to return Andrew and Tristan Tate's seized devices, stressing that the request came from the White House. So here's yet another accused sex trafficker being protected by the White House. I wanted to pause and read an excerpt from Katie Johnson's affidavit regarding the abuse that she suffered at the hands of President Trump. I can't. I can't for several reasons. I can't because every time I find a place where it's posted, before I get around to copying it, it's been taken down, deleted, hidden. Don't worry, you can find a write-up. But I had one on Facebook that I was going to read that a friend of mine posted, and it's gone. And they posted it like this morning, and it's gone now. But I read it, and I've read it several times. And while the case went away and this individual has dropped the charges, this is what happens when the incredibly wealthy are faced with the possibility of justice. In her account, which I will summarize in a couple sentences that are absolutely terrifying, she wanted to be a model, and she had a handler who hooked her up with Epstein. And she would go to the parties at Epstein's place. And after everything was done at the party, they would then go back in and report to Epstein to tell him what happened, what people's preferences were, what was discussed, what wasn't such. Basically, deliver the goods. It was entirely a kiss and tell scenario. And so she's a 13-year-old who was essentially forced, according to her, to service Donald Trump, and was chastised because after being called over to give him a hand job, she started to comply, but nobody's allowed to touch Trump's penis without gloves on or a condom, no skin-to-skin contact. She chronicled the various eyes wide shut level, rich fantasy sex party things that took place, including the gloved hand jobs and a housekeeper, sorry in advance for the words that might be traumatizing and triggering to some. But housekeeper rape fantasies that she was forced to play out, again, while she was a teenager, noting that most of the other girls there seemed to be somewhere between 13 and 16. And how he especially liked her to put on a blonde wig so that she looked like his daughter. Can't read the message because I'm pretty sure it would get demolished here as well. This video may not end up staying up. Who knows? You can't use the terms And what kind of fucking sick world is it where the people who are, I'm going to scrub my language just so this sentence can exist, where the people who are engaging in SA and trafficking of underage people are getting away with it, being excused, having Megyn Kelly and MAGA and journalists downplay the significance of it, and yet attempting to discuss what they supposedly did, attempting to tell the victims' stories in the actual grown-up language that describes what happened, will get your content taken down, your channel demonetized, and get you attacked. I'm a grown-up. I use grown-up language. It pisses some people off because I'm happy to drop an F-bomb. I'm happy to call things by the correct terms. I don't need to soft pedal things. But you can't do that. How embarrassing is it that an accurate reporting of what the President of the United States and his child sex trafficking friends and cohorts were involved with, the attempt to talk about it is silenced and seems to cause more irritation than the acts itself. Trump is a pig, and everybody supporting him are pigs. They're misogynistic, they're predators, and they have such power and privilege that they act like they're immune to the law because you know what? They mostly are. Ghislaine Maxwell is in a cushy prison with puppy privileges. The warden comes down and does things for her. When asked legitimate questions that would expose them, the response to say, quiet, quiet, piggy. And so that's all any of them should hear for the rest of their life. Quiet, piggy is all that the chauvinist pig Trump should hear from anyone anytime he speaks. I want world leaders to look at him and say, quiet, piggy. I want reporters to look at him and say, quiet, piggy. I want him on live TV to have to face someone calling out his chauvinistic pig behavior by saying, what the fuck is wrong with you? Quiet piggy is what anyone who still supports MAGA should hear anytime they try to defend any of this. Quiet piggy should be the reply to every far-right troll on every social media post. I recant my previous instruction to just say, keep posting. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I've been posting that on YouTube, on comments, left and right. Anytime anybody is obviously bullshit trolling, thank you for your attention to this matter. But I'm replacing it. Now I'm just going to say quiet piggy. Quiet piggy should be all we say to the people who call in to defend this, but we won't. We're still going to end up engaging with them. But now, as their ivory tower of lies and hatred starts to crumble around them, they're afraid to defend this. The lines are not lighting up. MAGA folks aren't calling in. They're cowering. When that tower that they built from lies and hatred crumbles around them, they're afraid to defend this. Just like theists are increasingly afraid to defend the specifics of their holy books, the history of their religious institutions, and the irrational claims and bigotry that they've been soaking in. And as that metaphorical structure of MAGA, the Heritage Foundation, Project 2025, Christian nationalism, and white supremacy collapse, the bricks and garbage that they were built of will make a wonderful sty where we can throw them all, toss slop at them, and say, quiet, piggy. and hopefully fix the mess that they've created and the broken homes and lives that they are responsible for. Because if it doesn't happen soon, the only thing we're going to be able to do is dig more graves. My guest tonight is the Texas State Director for American Atheists and a public advocate for left-leaning, progressive, secular, humanist values and policies. Will Jeudy, please give him a round welcome here. How are you holding up in all of this mess?
Good evening. I'm holding up well. I find solace. I find joy in the struggle. My friend Anthony Penn always often quotes Camus at the end of his talks about one must imagine Sisyphus happy. So you're never going to get that rock over the mountain. It's always going to come back. But if you're happy in the struggle, it's just a mindset. I'm a doctor in my day job, so in my day job I need 100% outcomes. That's the machine I built is for that. But I've had to shift it completely as a secular activist in Texas. I can't rely on outcomes. I'll burn out. But I find joy in the struggle. The people I meet in the trenches, fucking amazing. I love it. And I hate it when assholes win. So pushing back kind of gives me some joy.
When you look at what's happening now, I mean, on the one hand, that entire weirdly 30-minute screed I did while sick, just trying to cover just some of the basics of this, is, have we hit any sort of turning point yet? Is this likely to be the beginning of the end of MAGA, or is this just one more like, I've seen 25,000 road bumps that were, this is going to be the end of them, and it never is. What do we need to do to continue whatever momentum we might have gotten during the last set of elections where Virginia came out ahead, where Mamdani got elected? How do we keep some of that going while there's infighting amongst the Democrats? By the way, fuck the Democrats. I'm not a Democrat, but they're the ones that are closest to my secular values. And so I've got to do the right thing. Are you optimistic that things are as bad as they can be and are about to hit a turning point and get better? Or is this a longer haul than I'm thinking?
Yeah, I'm an optimist by nature. And I share your political leanings for sure. I'm not up here as a Democrat, but I'm repulsed by everything that the Trump party is doing. And that kind of fuels what I do. And Yep, absolutely. There is hope, and this is why I'm here, is to let everybody listening or watching this know that really grassroots activism is where it's at. That's how you affect change. And I get the whole mindset of it doesn't matter who I vote for, everything's the same, both sides are the same. Like, I get it, and you can still think that, but what I'm going to ask everyone to do is be a blade of grass in this grassroots movement. And it just takes one extra thing. If you're not voting, then voting is that extra thing. But if you already vote, there's a list of things that people can do from easy to hard that you just do the little extra. And now you're a blade of grass in a grassroots movement. And you can email me. My group, Secular Houston, we have a list that we post that has options for you. And it's something as simple as emailing a representative and telling them, good job, thanks for advocating for church-state separation. So now you're a voice for humanism, for secularism in government, and that's the extra. So I need everybody to do that, because this year has been oddly fueling my optimism. It started earlier this year, the No Kings rallies, amazing. In May, there were some school board elections here in Texas, and there was a rejection of Christian nationalism at the school board level, at the local level. That was a surprise here in Houston and in the DFW area and other places. Fast forward to this month, this rejection is accelerating. So the elections, you in Virginia, New Jersey, other place, New York City,
Yep.
But then in Texas and locally here in Houston, really conservative Cypher ISD, a school board election, it flipped from 6-1 crazy to 4-3 sane. 3 people ran, all 3 won. And it was a rejection of Christian nationalism, this bullshit that people see at the school board level. Same with Houston ISD, where I'm zoned. The courts, we can't count on the courts to save us. They always lag. They never lead in change. They're always lag. They're always behind.
Right.
But shit, you can't argue with these decisions lately are a little bit boggling. And I'm cautiously optimistic about what the courts say. But shit, they're rejecting 10 commandments in schools. They're actually, earlier on, they were saying, hey, let's just don't put them up. Let's wait. Let's hear this out. But now, I think yesterday they said, no. You tear them down. In these school districts, McAllen, Conroe, ISD, they're saying, take them down. I mean, I get goosebumps. Like, fuck yeah, this is how it's supposed to be. The whole we're in Texas, so that redistricting bullshit that started here in this state, the federal court said, nope, we rule that that's bullshit. It's racially driven. You go back to the maps as it were drawn in 2021. Fucking, that's amazing. Now it will go to the Supreme Court. It will be challenged. Let's see what happens. But goddamn, there is a rejection of this bullshit across the board at all levels, local, state, and federal. Yeah, these are tastes of victory that we're not used to in this state.
If it hadn't been for the actual terrible, disgusting, sexist actions of Trump, and things that I consider to be traitorous, and then Marjorie Taylor Greene calling out for traitorous, and then all the Epstein stuff. Those are the stories that I would have loved to have talked about. The fact that the gerrymandering attempt in Texas has been overturned by the court. However, before anybody gets too excited, they're expecting a stay, and the length of time that it might take to resolve this might still mean that the next round of voting does in fact happen under the gerrymandered districts while the courts try to sort it out. Hopefully, this will get pushed to the Supreme Court and overturned before the election, but there's no guarantee of that. And yet, the other bit of good news is that even if the worst happens, even if this gets challenged to the Supreme Court lets it stand, it still might not work out in their favor, because the actions of MAGA on Epstein and the economy and countless other things have gotten to the point where the redistricting that they did was based on presumptions about future elections based on the results of previous elections, but they are already losing big chunks of the Hispanic community and others. And so the mindset of the people in these areas that they tried to redistrict in order to swing things has shifted away from them anyway. How wild would it be for them to go through all of this, gerrymandered districts in order to try to boost the number of seats, and then still wind up, even if they win the case, losing those seats anyway?
Yeah, you're exactly right. They drew those based on data they have and the way they predict the electorate to act. You're exactly right. So yeah, they're losing support. You mentioned Hispanic voters. That's true. But what I want to do is just absolutely smash their shit by getting people to give more of a shit, to do more, to basically attack apathy. People have been trying this for decades. Apathy is a big problem here in Texas. But
Yep.
again, I want to do my part. This is why I'm here, to let people know it's not a waste of time to put your effort into this, and because we're seeing results of it. And again, I did the work for you. Whatever you say, oh, I want to do something more, but I just don't know what to do. I got you. Like I have options for you, so you can email me, and I'll go through it with you, because I think this is important, and this is something that you can do nationwide. And I'm not saying this is going to be an overnight fix. Absolutely not. This is a long game. But what you do is you put energy. You kind of are more efficient with your energy, and I can help with that. And you can do it through a secular prism. You can do it through a humanist prism. Now you're giving humanism and atheism and non-belief a voice in the political world, and that is a long game that I envision. That's what I'm trying to do, to give us more of a voice in the political world. It's sorely needed, and I've learned so much from all kinds of different people, and now I'm doing it, and I want to spread that knowledge to everybody here listening and beyond.
Well, there are links down below this to the Center for Free Thought Equality membership, Secular Houston, American Atheist, and then Who Represents Me, Texas, along with a bunch of other stuff. Arden has some announcements to get to, and then we do have a couple of callers already, including a theist that I'd like to get to, and then you and I can jump back in on political stuff and encouraging people and encouraging activism and outreach in between those. But I would like to invite our lovely and talented, wonderful producer who I love more than any of you people. And I love you guys. To tell us what's going on. What are all the announcements that your lazy, sick partner is skipping over today?
No worries. Hey, everyone. So I don't know if you remember last week, we had a LineCon advertisement, and this week we have another LineCon. This is to make up for the fact that we didn't have one last month because of the fundraiser. But yeah, so if you would like to participate in our new monthly patron special event called LineCon Online Live, these three speakers will be giving talks. Seth Andrews first on Jefferson's Jesus, talking about kind of how Christian nationalists like to misrepresent our founding and our history. Austin Archer is going to be talking about when grievances lead to deconstruction. And then Luxander is going to talk about how disability will radicalize you. All of those talks are going to be available at the same event this Saturday, November 22nd at 3 p.m. Central Time. And you can access that by being a Patreon supporter at patreon.com/calltheline. All supporters of the $15 tier and up will get access to this event. And patrons of the $15 tier who can't make it will get access immediately to the playback. Patrons of any tier below that will get access to it before it goes on YouTube. We don't have a strict timeline on that, but you will get it first. Yeah, and the last thing, if you emailed me with to get your shirt or the link to the exclusive shirt to purchase for like the big dollar donos over for the Secular Student Alliance fundraiser, I just emailed everyone back today. So please check your email. Send me a confirmation that you got it and you got your whatever you needed to get. And if you don't see a link from me, message me again. So that way I can make sure everyone who needs to gets their the rewards and links for all of that stuff. That's all I got.
Awesome. There's a lot of cool stuff and fun stuff coming up, both with the holidays, with LineCons. We're going to try to both do good and maybe hopefully make some people feel good all at the same time. We've got callers lined up, including a theist, and we always prioritize theists here. And so while we have a lot more to potentially talk about, I am definitely going to at least take any call from a theist that decides to call in. So Clayton is calling from Indiana, no preferred pronouns, and it would like to defend their God of Christianity. So Clayton, you're on with Will, Jeudy, and myself. How are you?
Pretty good. How are you?
Well, I'm sick, but let's just go with okay, because I'm alive, and that's better than not.
Like, you don't believe in God and stuff?
Correct.
Why not?
Because there's insufficient evidence to justify believing in any God that I've been presented with.
But, like, I believe in God and stuff because this one time, me and my buddy, we lost our TV, and then we went to go find it, and we found one outside of a trash can, and it was just, It was a good day.
Okay. Thanks for calling, Clayton. I'm sorry that your brain is broken and that you are unwilling to be honest or engage. When you say that you'd like to defend your God of Christianity, and then all you do is ask in a kind of butthead style voice, so you don't believe in like God, why not? Nobody believes you. Nobody takes you seriously. And we're not even going to hold what you've said against Christians or theists. But I will say that I was willing to put everything on hold to try to engage with anybody who sincerely wants to defend a God. And that's what we got. So if you're out there and you're comfortable with him representing your religion and the defense of it, that's good. It's about what we expected. I mean, I've done this for 20 years. And now you guys, I mean, it must be really sad because they can't rile me up because they can't fake me out. Literally, before we were done with the first sentence, when I hear that, so you don't believe in God, from someone who doesn't have preferred pronouns and says that they're calling in to defend the God of Christianity, we know instantly that you're not serious. Next time, I mean, I'm sure you'll call back. I'm not going to block your number. I'm sure we'll hear from you again. Next time, remind me and we'll ask you, what do you get out of this? What do you get by pretending that you're going to defend something and then just making a mockery of the whole process? It's very strange. Let's take a secular caller. It's been on hold for quite a while, but Mark in Virginia, pronouns he, him. Something about MAGA in terms of systems, not individuals. So, Mark, you're on with Will and Matt. What's going on?
Thank you so much for having me. Been a long-time listener. I've been watching your show since I was 17 years old, and now I'm 32.
Well, thanks for making me feel young.
So, yeah, I just wanted to discuss MAGA in terms of systems as opposed to individuals, because I think oftentimes when we think about politics in the U.S., especially in the context of the Red Scare and McCarthyism, we don't think about our political system in terms of material forces, right? We tend to anthropomorphize these different ideologies. So what do you think about that?
I don't understand what you're saying yet.
What I'm saying is that, for example, I've heard you say multiple times that, MAGA voters are personally responsible for the mess we're in. Is that accurate? Okay. So what I'd like to suggest
how would you blame someone other than the voters who repeatedly voted for this?
Mm-hmm. I would blame those in positions of power that have more of a responsibility to steer the ship. So that would be how I would assess that situation.
So you don't think the individual voters have a duty and a responsibility to investigate and learn and make responsible positions, that they should not be held responsible when they just follow propaganda?
I do, but the issue is that it's all downstream from the systems. So, of course, I agree with you. Individuals should, in an ideal situation, they should investigate these claims. They shouldn't be so susceptible to propaganda. They shouldn't harbor hateful, transphobic, homophobic, racist, disgusting, morally reprehensible views. But we live in a world of causality, right? And it's not about me diminishing the moral dimension, but it's about emphasizing the systems that produce these types of people.
Mark, do you think we have free will?
No. I think
your excuse for not blaming the people who voted also applies to the people who you're trying to blame at the top of the system. They don't have any more choice than anybody else.
No, but I was going to qualify it. I think I spoke too recklessly. I'm more of a compatibilist. I would agree with you. I would agree more with Daniel Dennett. But in a fundamental sense, I think those with more power and privilege should have a greater responsibility to change the system. And I think I don't think that's controversial to say.
I do, but what do you think should be done?
I think what needs to be done is for us to collectively change the material conditions in this country so we stop producing, socially or pathologically antisocial individuals who end up supporting people like Nick Fuentes. Right? Attacking Fuentes voters.
That's not a how.
Yeah.
That's not a how.
That's not a what? I'm sorry?
That's not a how to fix it. How do you do that?
By appealing to people's sense of justice, of material interests. I think that's one way to do it. But building broad coalitions and blaming primarily those in positions of power and authority.
So, Mark, you alluded earlier, you hinted a couple times at material stuff, like capitalism, part of this original sin machine that you're talking about upstream.
Yes, I think its tendency towards further and further inequality, the consolidation of power and wealth, the monetization of every aspect of our life is a major reason why we're in this mess.
So what's the plan?
The point of what?
No, not the point. What's the plan? What is your plan to fix this? Because I'm willing to say that the MAGA voters are the ones enabling the problem, and that everything that you're suggesting is something that each of us have complained about repeatedly and fairly consistently, and it hasn't fixed a fucking thing. So what is the solution that you're advocating?
Okay, my solution is that we focus primarily on attacking major players in the system. I am 100% in favor of attacking Nick Fuentes because he has a platform. Attacking Tucker Carlson because he aids and abets white nationalism, white supremacy. I'm 100% on board with attacking Trump and the Trump administration. But I think there's a fundamental difference between that and attacking, admittedly, a politically illiterate person in Idaho. Right? I mean, I think that's the distinction I'm trying to draw. I'm saying, you, Matt, you have a giant platform. I think there are many people on the left with big platforms, and I think they should use those platforms to attack systems, to attack those key players in those positions that actually have the reach.
Mark?
Yes.
Did you listen to my 30-minute intro tonight?
Yes.
Did I go after voters?
In an indirect way, yes.
You're so full of shit.
I'm absolutely not. This is a good faith.
You are absolutely full of shit. I have a transcript here of
explain.
No, I want you to stop talking and listening. I have a transcript here of what I actually said, and this was about Trump. This was about Megyn Kelly. This was about journalists. This was about government officials. This was about policies. At what point in the 30-minute opening did I mention voters?
When you said, and those who enable them, the people who vote for them.
Yes. Oh, so now you're suggesting, no, shut up. Stop talking. Now you're suggesting that we can't even mention the people who are enabling because that's a mistake. Why is it?
That's a straw man.
What part of don't talk was too difficult for you? I'm getting ready to ask you a question.
Delay, I'm sorry.
I'm getting ready to ask you. Then just stop until I ask you a question. What part of pointing out what's going on over and over again, why is it a mistake to also say, and the people enabling this? Why is that a strategic error? I desperately want to know.
Can I give you an analogy to explain my answer?
I'd like you to know, do whatever you've got to do to defend the accusation that I think is absolute bullshit, where you seem to be suggesting that any mention of the voters is a mistake. Why?
Okay, I will explain it to you in this way. Do you think there was a crime epidemic in the 90s, 80s and 90s and early 2000s in the United States?
I honestly don't know crime statistics in the 80s, 90s, and early 2000s compared to others.
Okay, the consensus is that those years experienced, all-time highs in terms of violent crime in the 80s and 90s. Right? Now, if I were having a conversation about crime, I don't know what the consensus
is. I don't know what the consensus is. I also don't know what this has to do. I also don't know what this has to do with you suggesting that calling out the voters, who are a fucking requirement for these people to be in power, is always a problem. So go ahead.
That's why I'm going to draw an analogy, Matt. Can I get to my analogy? Is it possible to make that analogy?
As long as you're not asking questions that are irrelevant that I don't have answers for.
Okay.
If you ask me whether or not I think, if you ask me whether or not I think there was a crime epidemic in the 80s, 90s, or 2000s, that's completely irrelevant to whether or not there's a problem with identifying and calling out the voters in addition to the systemic problems.
The problem is in the phrasing. The problem is in how you frame or phrase the situation. So in the 80s and 90s, we experienced a much higher crime rate than previous years. And if in those years you would just point to the individuals committing those crimes, you would have missed the point of why we were in that situation to begin with. And that's the analogy I'm drawing. I'm saying, of course, these people are in a causal sense. They went to vote and they voted for Trump. That's unquestionably true. You're 100% right. They voted for Trump. That's a causal situation. They were causally involved in that process. But so were the people pulling those triggers. But ultimately, we looked at deindustrialization. We looked at lead contamination. We looked at all these sociological factors that led to an explosion in crime. And that was more effective in reducing it than simply blaming the criminals.
I'm still waiting for you to explain why there's a strategic problem in identifying the voters in addition to the systemic problems.
The strategic problem is that the liberal tendency, and I don't mean left, the liberal tendency to...
I'm not a liberal,
focus,
I'm a lefty. But
no, you're not a liberal. I'm not saying, I wouldn't say that. I'm saying the discourse that we engage in implicitly.
You're like somebody who just got a new hammer and sees everything as a fucking nail. I would like for you to tell me.
I've been doing this for a long time.
I would like for you to tell me, because I keep asking, if there's a systemic problem and we call out the systemic problems and we point out the people who for the last 10 years have repeatedly enabled this as an actual part of the problem, which you've already acknowledged that factually they are. How is it a problem to identify them as part of the problem?
Yes.
Oh my God. How is it a problem to identify them as part of the problem, a factual truth, when they keep being part of the problem while we're talking about the systemic problem? What's the issue?
The issue is that any time spent on that part of the problem misses bigger systemic problems. We don't have infinite time and energy and resources.
You're so full of shit.
It's a matter of prioritization.
No. You're so absolutely full of shit. I did a 30-minute opening where I mentioned the fucking voters obliquely. Shut up! Shut up! I mentioned the fucking voters obliquely in half a sentence, and you're saying that's too much time spent on them.
You do realize I picked my topic before your monologue, right?
No, I don't know when or care when. I'm talking to you now. Are you going to be honest, or are you going to now try to pretend?
I'm 100% honest.
Shut up!
You're imputing my intentions. That's completely false.
Shut your mouth! Why can I not fucking ask you a question without you trying to jump in and talk over me? Here, let me make it easy. I'm going to mute you. You'll get to talk when Daddy says it's okay. It doesn't matter if you picked your topic before I started talking. We're talking now. And I specifically asked you if you heard my opening and what was wrong with it, and whether or not I blamed the voters. And you, without missing a beat, suggested that I did, in fact, blame the voters, as if that was some significant focus of my opening, when it was one oblique mention, which for you is too much. Please explain to us, oh, chief political strategist, how ever mentioning the voters is a problem, and how you're going to fix the systemic problems without mentioning the voters. The floor is now yours.
Okay, there were many claims made, so I have to prioritize the last thing you said. So the reason that I think not just mentioning the voters, but making that a major narrative in the criticism. I'm not saying you've done that, so I'm going to preempt this by saying I'm not saying you've done that tonight.
I'm going to mute you again. I want you to explain how to fix the problem without addressing the voters. I don't care if somebody else has addressed the voters too much, or if you think I've addressed them too much in the past. I did a 30-minute opening. That's what we're talking about. You had an objection to my opening. How do you fix the systemic problems without addressing the voters and their responsibility? That's my question. Try again.
By focusing on broad sociological trends, by talking about the economy, by talking about issues that directly affect the broadest coalition you can build.
How's that been working so far?
It's been working fantastically in Latin America. Did you look at Lula's campaign and his campaign strategy?
I'm not in Latin America,
we can learn
Mark.
from successful examples.
I'm trying to fix the United States. I'm asking how it's working in the United States, because I'll tell you, there's been a lot of talk about the economy. There's been a lot of talk of problems. And what happens is that Trump just sits there and lies, and the stupid MAGA voters suck it right up. And that deserves to be called out.
Hey, Mark, let's say you do get a really healthy, great coalition formed. What do you do with that? How does that translate into smashing this machine that you're talking about?
You chip away at the problem of income inequality. I mean, exactly what you're doing on the ground, grassroots organizing, making sure that people are class conscious, that they use their time and energy wherever they can to reduce inequality. And that, I think, in turn, will restore some, real trust in our institutions. And that institutional trust will fill the vacuum that's now being filled by Fuentes and Carlson and Candace Owens, and they will become irrelevant.
How does the Mark coalition reduce? How does the Mark coalition reduce income inequality in the USA?
Well, I mean, part of it just boils down to voting. I'm not denying that that's an important aspect of it, right? Part of it is galvanizing people to build coalitions to support candidates that want to reduce inequality. The Mamdani campaign is a exceptional case of someone doing just that. So by building more campaigns like the Mamdani campaign, I guess that would be my condensed answer.
You got this, Matt. You got it.
I got nothing left to say to Mark. I don't give a shit what Mark has to say about anything. But I'm optimistic that Mark and Will might be able to address something, because it's absolutely bonkers to me that Mark has spent more time talking about the voters, even when unprompted, than I did as a percentage of content.
Yeah, he's talking about class warfare, and progressive values. I'm all for it, but it's hard to do in this country you call the USA. But yeah, keep fighting the fight, Mark.
It's really weird that, oh, hey, we can solve income inequality by chipping away at it. Really? That's a clever little phrase. How do you do that? That's the thing. That's not well, you can do it. I'm sorry. Was I fucking talking? Was that too confusing for you, Mark?
I'm sorry?
How do you chip away at it? And how long do you spend chipping away? How much privilege do you have to wait for the income inequality to get fixed?
I don't have that much privilege. I'm losing my healthcare very, very soon.
Me too. How long do you want to chip away at it before you call a spade a spade?
I'm not sure what you mean. I've called a spade a spade. I think the people that support Trump are morally blind.
Do you think they're also particularly stupid and misinformed and ill-informed?
Yes.
Cool. Why can't you say that?
I have.
Then why are you objecting? Then why are you objecting to it being mentioned alongside other things?
Because not all truths fit into a utilitarian framework.
Do you have some evidence that not calling out stupid, misinformed, ill-informed, hateful voters is a good idea?
Yes.
Where? Give me that data.
I think the Bernie campaign was one of the most successful campaigns by a mainstream self-professed democratic socialist, and he made it, because I was working on that campaign.
Bernie campaign for what?
A conscious, both campaigns for president.
You think that Bernie Sanders coming in third multiple times for president is a shining example of how to fix the problem?
I think it's a shining example of how to build the most robust coalition. Yes.
Really? The most robust coalition? Why isn't Bernie president?
Because of institutional barriers.
So building that coalition that you think there was a prime example of this didn't do enough to break down the institutional barriers. So how are you going to, so you're basically saying you don't have data on how to fix the problem. You just have data on your preferred method of not fixing the problem.
What do you mean by fixing the problem?
You just said there are institutional barriers. How do you fix those?
You fix them by leveraging people power against institutional power.
I'm sorry, people power. Do you mean voters?
Yes.
You're in way over your fucking head here, Mark. What's the plan?
I don't think you know what you're talking about.
Okay. Bernie's not president?
Power,
Bernie's not president due to institutional problems that you think can be fixed with the voters, but we can't call the voters out who are supporting MAGA. So what do you do with those voters?
You provide them a narrative that they can cling on to. I think that's what you do. And the narrative of people being fundamentally stupid and ignorant and bad, I don't think is a good narrative for building that coalition or overcoming those institutional hurdles. I think it's been proven to be ineffective.
How?
The Hillary campaign.
Hillary was right. The fact that it didn't work.
But you don't say everything that's correct.
The fact that it didn't work. So I would agree do you think that the people calling this out just started with, wow, these people are stupid and immoral and hateful? Or did they get to there? How many years, how many decades do we have to sit and be centrist?
That's not centrism. Centrism is exactly what Hillary Clinton did. It's what Joe Biden did. That's not centrism. If you mean, do we not have a right to call them out? Of course we have a right to call them out. I'm not denying that. I didn't say anything at all. I didn't say anything at all about right to call out. Every time I'm in a conversation with one of you guys that are dishonest as fuck about stuff, you want to do do we have a right to do it? Nobody mentioned a right. I'm talking strategy. And there are people that we've tried to play nice with, and there are people that we've tried to educate, and there are people where it was like, it's a basket of deplorables. Oh, you shouldn't do that. I'm going to vote for the worst option out of retaliation. Well, fuck you. That means you're a despicable human being. If pointing out that you're supporting racists and fascists makes you want to support racists and fascists more, fuck you. You're killing the planet. You're killing the country. I don't see. I'm sorry.
When you talk about giving them a narrative, what narrative have we failed to give them? Here's a narrative. How about I'd like to keep my fucking health care? How about we'd like to not double fucking premiums? How about we'd like to fucking do something about climate change? How about we'd like to encourage income inequality to go the fuck away? How about all those things that, while centrists haven't done a very good job on it, at least liberals and leftists have done a slightly better job, and it still didn't fucking work.
Well, I think what is working now, Matt, is the fact that people are realizing that inflation is not going down, that they can't afford healthcare, that they can't afford college tuition. That actually is what is working. So when you ask about how is this class narrative or how is this incremental sort of chipping away, how is that going to help? My answer is it takes time. It takes decades. It might take generations. But
go the fuck away, Mark.
In the sense that
I don't have generations. I don't have generations. I don't have generations, and I'm not going to play nice with the people who want to fucking sit there and wait generations, you privileged motherfuckers.
Well, I'm not one
There
of
are
those people. I'm
people.
not privileged.
There are people fucking dying. There are people who can't get passports. There are people who are thinking about moving from their state or from the nation in order to save their life. I'm being declared a domestic fucking terrorist extremist by the government of the United States. And you think that it's a mistake strategically for me to mention that voters bear some responsibility for this. Are you fucking stupid?
No, I'm not. And I will explain that there's a difference between feeling good and doing good. And if you want to be, moralistic about it, you want to feel good about, being correct in a fundamental sense, then you can feel good about being correct. That's fair. But I'm talking about learning from other examples in other countries where people have used a different strategy to overcome fascism. Now, you can discount that because it's not in the United States.
Anything else?
No, I mean, I just want to say I'm a huge fan, and I've never.
I don't give a
called
shit.
into
Stop
any of
being
these.
a fan. Stop
I
being
know
a
you don't
fan. You're
give a
not
shit,
paying
Matt.
it. Stop being a fan. You're not paying attention. You're not learning anything. You think you figured out how to do
I
this, so
don't
go
think that's
fucking
fair.
do it and stop talking to me.
I never said I figured out how to do it by myself.
Yes, you
And
did.
the
Yes,
only
you
thing I
did.
can-
Yes,
the only-
you did.
No, I
You
didn't.
came in to talk strategy about what works and what you think you have evidence for working. You fucking liar. You absolutely did come in thinking that you know how to fix it. I asked you repeatedly how to fix it, and you tried to offer half-assed suggestions. Don't lie now and pretend
I
that you don't
answered
think.
directly
Don't
every
lie
question you
now.
asked.
Don't lie now and pretend that you weren't calling in with your strategy that you think will fix it.
Matt, are you a skeptic?
Don't lie now and pretend.
I'm asking you if you're a skeptic.
Mark, I'm not going to dignify your stupid fucking question with a response.
No, because claiming that I'm being dishonest or lying when I could just be misspeaking or I could be confused, I think is unfair. You're assuming that I'm lying without any evidence.
No, sir. No, sir. You called in and I repeatedly asked you for the strategy you thought you would work and you offered it, which means you definitely think that you have the right strategy. It is a lie for you at the end of all this.
You said you can. There's a difference between saying you have the right strategy and that you can do it.
Shut up. I'm listening. Oh my God. While chat is eating you alive and begging me to hang up on you for the last 15 minutes.
I'm not watching the stream.
I don't give a shit. I didn't ask. Okay, you're muted now, and you will not get to speak again for today. While chat is eating you alive, because you have definitely come in thinking you have a better way. Your entire purpose was to discuss that you have a better way. It is stupid for you, after being taken for a walk around the park, to show that you're offering nothing of substance other than let's offer them a hopeful narrative, as if nobody's ever done that before, as if there weren't hopeful narratives in the fucking past, to pretend that you don't think you have the solution. That's what you lied about. I don't need to take into consideration that maybe you misspoke, because it's ridiculous to assume that you misspoke every single time I asked you what the solution is. How do we fix it? What's your plan? What's wrong with this? You had an answer. Oh, it's wrong for this reason. It's wrong for this reason. It hasn't worked here. It hasn't worked there. You didn't need to lie. And then to pretend that I'm not a skeptic because I called you a liar for fucking lying, instead of acknowledging that you might have just been mistaken. You need to go off and do better, Mark. Bye. All right. Hey, you want to have some fun, Will?
I do.
Cool. We've got Brad calling from South Carolina. Pronouns are he, him. Brad's a theist who'd like to explain why MAGA is a good thing. So congrats, Brad. You beat out the hopeful narrative dude for the best attention. So why is MAGA a good thing?
I think MAGA is a good thing because it gives young people something to be hopeful for.
Like what?
Well, tax cuts, possibly. I'm not too sure about that. I haven't done my research on that one.
Are young people billionaires?
Also,
because they're the ones that are getting
sorry?
the tax cuts. Young people aren't getting tax cuts unless they're billionaires.
I got a tax cut. I'm a small business owner. I got one last year. It was pretty good.
Last year would be Trump's responsibility? Oh, no, it
I'm not
wouldn't.
sure, to be honest.
Yeah, you're not sure. Okay. So if you're calling in to defend MAGA, and you get everything wrong in the first couple sentences, I mean, you want them to be hopeful. What is MAGA to be hopeful for? And why are you okay with defending pedophiles?
Well, there's pedophiles on both sides, Matt.
Oh,
I mean,
are
God,
there?
the way Joe Biden was sniffing that kid's hair at the party. Oh man!
Yeah, you're not serious, Brad. Nobody takes you seriously.
Brad, no,
so let me let me ask you, Brad. No, you're not. No, you're not, Brad. No, you're not. Let me ask you, what do you get out of calling in to pretend to be a serious interlocutor on this subject? What do you get out of this?
Well, I just like to have a conversation, but I keep getting cut off. I may have misspoke on my opening statement. I wasn't.
You may have misspoke. You may have misspoke
Yeah.
that you think MAGA is a good thing. So, is MAGA a good thing?
I believe it is. I do like
why?
how there's been a reduction in all of the kind of LGBT stuff. You know, it seems like I saw a lot more of that with the previous administration. I wasn't really a fan of it.
Why?
Also,
well, okay, whether or not you're a fan of it. So Brad, whether or not you're personally a fan of something is completely independent of whether or not that's a good thing, right?
Well, I mean, to me, it's a good thing. I mean, that's all this is. That's all
Okay.
this is. It's just an
Well, to the
opinion,
KKK, white separatist stuff is good, right?
Yeah, but I don't believe it is.
Well, so you're missing the point, Brad. If white separatist advocation is good for the KKK and anti-LGBTQ stuff is good for you, the question then becomes, how do we tell what's actually good and not just what Brad likes?
That's the biggest problem with it all. We don't know what's good. There's no such thing as good because everybody has a different opinion.
Well,
right?
Congratulations.
I mean, what's your opinion? What do you think is good? I'm curious.
Then you can't make the claim that MAGA is good. You can just claim that you like it. I'm in favor of LGBTQ rights, and you're not.
Okay, well,
why?
Five
hang on. Did you not hear that I was talking? So I'm in favor of LGBTQ rights, and you're not, and I'd like to know why.
Well, there's no right that I have that an LGBTQ person does not have.
Really?
Yeah, really. I mean, name one, name two.
Well, name one, name two. Can you get a passport? Can you get a passport with your gender identity marker on it that matches your gender identity?
Well, if we're talking about science, then yes, because gender and sex.
No. Sex and gender are different things, and we're not talking about science. We're talking about the gender marker that appears on people's passports. There's no science involved in that.
It's called sex on a passport.
No, it's not. It's not. Sex is not binary, and sex is not gender, and sex is not what we're putting on passports.
Sex is binary.
Okay. You're absolutely wrong. How many possible chromosome pairings are there?
There's more than two.
There's more than two, which means it's not binary, correct? Even if you're only talking about chromosomes, right?
Let me ask you a question.
No. Just ask you a question. No. Just okay. I'm going to mute you. See, once again, we've got somebody else calling in who's not serious, and it's obvious. Because you're like, oh, sex is binary. And then you acknowledge that even if you're only talking about chromosomes, it's not binary. It's also not binary if you're only talking about gametes. It's also not binary if you're talking about any number of other things. It's only normatively quasi-binary, and sex and gender are independent. However, you said that you're opposed to LGBTQ rights. So I'm going to ask you, since you wouldn't answer the last question, I'll answer you a new question. Are you in favor of same-sex marriage, or are you opposed to same-sex marriage, or do you not care? Let's try that.
Am I muted still?
Now you're not. What's the answer?
I'm not opposed to it. I think love is love. You know, if you love somebody, then you love them, and that's it.
Cool.
I don't like people switching bodies.
What
I
is
think
it
it's
about the
kinda messed up.
LGBTQ stuff that you're complaining about then? If you're okay with people putting their gender markers on their passports and marrying the person they love, what's too much?
Cutting boobs off of teenagers. That's pretty messed up.
Yeah, that pretty
The
much
transgender
doesn't ever happen, and to the extent that it will happen on some occasions.
It does, because my mother works for the hospital.
I'm sorry. See, first of all, you're never, ever, ever going to be able to talk over me. It's never going to happen. So first of all, it almost never happens off of 13-year-olds. There's an entire show that we do on Thursdays called the Transatlantic Call-In Show, where they go over this all the time and all the actual data and statistics. I would bet that you've probably called in with this bullshit with them before. However, are you opposed to when it occurs, for example, if a young cis boy develops larger chests that need to be removed as part of well, wouldn't that also be gender affirming care? And are you opposed to that under a doctor's supervision?
Sorry, hello?
Okay. Yep, never mind. Goodbye. I'm not playing the Brad game.
I have actual stats on the rates of gender affirming surgeries for minors, by the way, from like one of the largest cohorts ever done in the US, released at the beginning of this year.
Go for it.
Hold on, let me zoom in on this.
It's hilarious that he's okay with the queer stuff, just not the trans stuff, and then he wants to use stuff that's not really happening.
So 0 procedures were found on minors under 12. For minors 13 to 14 years, it was 0.1 per 100,000 minors. And for minors aged 15 to 17, it was 2.1 per 100,000. So you can do the math on the percentage rate that is. It's extremely low, like 0.0001%. And the vast majority of the actual procedures that were done, the like breast reduction surgery on minors, out of the, let me see if I can find the right number. Of the 151 breast reductions on cisgender male minors and transgender minors, 146 of them were on cisgender males, meaning 97% of gender affirming surgeries on minor peoples were done on cisgender people. So if you care about that, it's weird that you're only talking about the LGBT stuff.
I bet Brad's also fine with routine infant circumcision as well, which outside of religion has no justification. While there can be benefits under really odd, well, I don't know, why am I even talking about it? There's an actual doctor here.
Yeah, Brad just texted me. He said he went out and found a TV by the trash can. So happy ending for Brad.
It's so strange that it's like, I think there's too much of this trans stuff, like lopping the breasts off 13-year-olds. I don't know why you're spending so much time, Brad, worrying about 13-year-old breasts. But considering it's something that almost never happens, I would definitely put you in the creepy category, because the reality is that all of the major medical organizations and all of the major experts in this area, both from medical fields and medical ethics fields, whether you view the transness or gender dysphoria, or you view it as a medical issue or a psychological issue or any number of things, they're in agreement that gender affirming care and treatment, and a process that begins with counseling and therapy and continues to eventually possible medical and eventually possible surgical things, is the current best process for treating people. We know that that's what leads to the best outcome given the current available things. I'd love to know, I guess I shouldn't have hung up so quick. I'd love to know why Brad isn't in favor of the best outcome and thinks that he's siding with science when he simultaneously acknowledges that sex isn't gender and that sex isn't binary, even though he'd really like to say it's binary. But at the end of the day, here's the one mistake. This is it. First of all, you guys can all tune into the Transatlantic Collins show. You can go read tons and tons of articles and all this. And I don't want to pretend like I'm the great cis, straight, white hope with all the answers. But every single objection to trans rights and trans issues boils down to one thing. Any syllogism they construct flatly at some point denies that there is any distinction between cis and trans, denies that trans is a thing, and pretends that trans people are claiming to be cis. Listen to them talk. Oh, these are men claiming to be women. Okay. Trans women are women. Trans women aren't saying they're cis women. Trans men are men. Trans men aren't saying they're cis men. They're identifying. And you would prefer that there's not a distinction between cis and trans. And so you pretend that there's not. And you'll go down so far as to deny chromosomes and gametes. You'll go down and you'll deny anything and everything and claim that you've got science on your side, when in reality, gender, as it's being discussed in modern terms, is complicated and has identity. Oh, I can hear you, Arden, I think. Has identity and expression, but also the process or the categorization is one that is broader and more complicated than some people would like to recognize. And I get that that's very terrifying. Boys have a penis, girls have a vagina. If your entire understanding of human sexuality and gender comes from a little kid in the backseat of Jerry Maguire, you probably need to go out and do some more studying. Because the reality is, trans people aren't claiming to be cis. And all they're looking for is mostly the dignity and the right to be largely left alone and to stop being used as a propaganda foil. Let me tell you something, Brad. You called in supposedly to tell us why MAGA is a good thing. And the only thing we got to that you actually knew anything about or thought you knew something about, you started with, it's there to give young people hope. Hope for what? Ooh, that threw you for a loop. Did you not prepare and think about what I would ask if you said that it was about giving trans people hope? Hope for tax cuts. Well, some of us aren't as worried about tax cuts, especially since they keep going for the billionaires. Some of us would like for there to be due process. Some of us would like for the laws and protections of the Constitution to apply uniformly. Some of us would like for people to feel comfortable in their homes and going out in public without feeling that they're going to be disappeared. Do you know that they just rounded up a Purple Heart veteran in their ICE raids? Oh, but that's just one example, Matt. Think about all of the invasive criminals here. Yes. Let's take a look at what the statistics are. That a vanishingly small percentage of all the people that ICE has rounded up have any sort of criminal history at all. And we don't, and by the way, without following due process, we don't know who's being rounded up. We don't know what their status is, was, or should be. But we know there's been mistakes. And we know that there's corruption involved in all of this. And we know that they're building facilities to house the homeless and to house the illegals and everything else. This is absolutely bizarre. And while the economy collapses, while Trump's stupid tariffs cost everybody money, while our farmers go bankrupt, while we bail out Argentina, while we kill Venezuelans in boats, you're worried that some kid out there might have their gender acknowledged in a way that you're personally not comfortable with. Well, it's a good thing it's none of your fucking business then. But it's nice to know that the MAGA supporters are here primarily for the bigotry and the bucks. As long as you go after the right people and give them the hope that they might be a billionaire someday, they'll let you traffic kids. They'll let you make immigrants disappear. They will let you lie. They will let you steal. They will let you fill your coffers with billions of dollars and hide your friends and pardon the insurrectionists and pardon the MAGA. Are you watching this, Mark? Are you paying attention, Mark? To the MAGA defenders here that we just need to give an optimistic narrative to? The narrative they want is bigoted. They are using a tiny fraction of the population as a fucking scarecrow, fear-mongering prop. And they're doing it to enrich themselves and have their sex parties and their sex trafficking. But Mark thinks that we shouldn't do anything with regard to the voters that are enabling this. We should chip away at the system in a long plan of, let's give them something optimistic about, the economy. Yes. I'm sorry. I thought the last election, the last major presidential election was all about the price of eggs. How is the price of eggs right now? Did that work out? Did it change any minds? Was it significant? Why is it that when the MAGA voters call in, the only thing they care about is trans folks and billionaires? I appreciate Mark's optimism that there may be, maybe it's not a great idea to tell people they're stupid. Yeah, we didn't start off by telling people that they were stupid. We didn't start off by saying that they were immoral. That wasn't where this began. This is a decade and some change of dealing with stupid, of dealing with immoral, of asking people, hey, what's your defense for MAGA? Well, my defense for MAGA is that they're going to give me a tax break and they're going to go after those trans folks. Congratulations. How's your tax break working? Well, I got a tax break last year. I'm a small business. Yes, last year. Was that from Trump? No, it wasn't. And that's how I know that you're a fraud. I mean, you fell right into the absolute defeater for your entire position right at the outset. And so I want to know, for you people who call in to do that, I don't take you seriously. I don't think that person was a MAGA supporter. I think that they were just being a cartoon troll of a MAGA supporter. We don't get any actual MAGA supporters. The closest we get are people who only want the hatred. So, no, I'm not going to stop calling out the bigots as bigots.
There's also a list of like 10 other things you could go through for rights that trans people don't have if you really wanted to, but.
Well, I haven't been geared up for a trans debate on rights stuff. And so that's why I just went with the passport thing, because I know that's one of the big problems. But, you know, they keep going to like sports. Okay, cool. What about bathrooms? What about, I don't know. See, the problem is that it's not so much, well, Arden, give the examples that I'm not going to be able to give.
Yeah, trans kids aren't able to access gender-affirming care that cisgender kids are able to access. Same exact medicine, same exact well-established standards of care. We understand these medicines very well. When trans people are able to access surgeries, we often have to jump through hoops that cis people don't have to jump through in order to access the same exact surgery. Like you mentioned, legal identity, like on IDs and passports, several states are, starting to restrict our ability to access those. Our ability to access public facilities like bathrooms are severely limited. We don't have really well-established non-discrimination protections. And more recently, there have been several lower court rulings on the ability for both employers to discriminate against us and for like fellow students to discriminate and bully and harass their peers. You mentioned sports. Whether or not you think we should be allowed in sports, that is a right that we don't have access to sports. Certain educational materials on like how to have healthy, safe sex Kids are, young trans teens are denied access to those kinds of materials. Trans veterans were denied their retirement benefits.
They can't serve openly in the military again?
Yeah, you can't serve openly in the military again, even if you can pass every check on your fitness for it. So, I mean, that's just the first list of things that come to mind, but so many things.
It's just wild. All right, we've got more callers. Unfortunately, we and I say unfortunately, I don't mean that to slight anybody who's on the lines, but we basically mostly, I see one that's not an atheist or agnostic, but Dak's calling, pronouns are he, him, talking about removing the restrictions on how people can vote. Hey, Dak, how do we do that?
Hi, yeah. You were looking for a solution earlier. I'm hoping I can give it to you.
Okay.
Well, think about, you were talking about Bernie Sanders and what he did and the fact that he didn't succeed. The main reason why he didn't succeed is because he quit due to the fact that as an independent, the Democratic Party wasn't going to let him win, and he couldn't stay in the race without taking votes away from other candidates. So he had to make a decision. He cared more about the people than about himself. So he quit so he wouldn't take votes away from other decent candidates. And the way we have the system set up right now, that's what happens repeatedly. The candidate who cares most about the people and least about themselves is the least selfish candidates are the first ones to quit, the second to quit, third to quit, and so on, until all we're left with is the most self-centered candidates of all, basically the most evil and the lesser evil. And we can argue about which one is the lesser evil, but when we tell people you got to get out there and vote for whichever candidate you think is the better of the two, but they're against both of them, and there's only two left. The problem is that we're putting them in a position where a lot of people end up having to vote in a way that they feel is doing more damage than good, and that they actually feel like not voting at all would be the better choice in that case. But if we take those restrictions away, that we can take away, for example, the big one right now in most voting systems in the USA is the restriction that in one way or another says vote for only one. Remove that restriction, and a whole lot more people will be voting, and the best candidates will no longer feel they have to quit. Another restriction is the fact that we don't allow people to ever vote directly against a candidate. And no, voting for the other guy isn't the same thing, because sometimes there's two or three other guys. So it doesn't work out mathematically. I'm going to shut up now and let you talk.
Well, what do you think about that?
Yeah, these are fine ideas. Ranked choice voting. You mentioned some other things. Fine ideas. Yeah, they will never be enacted. Any good ideas like this to get more people involved in the electoral and political process, it will never be enacted until we elect people that change it from the inside.
That's not necessarily true. May I address that, please?
These are laws that have to be passed, and it has to be done behind the wall. There
are processes. You're right. May I address that?
Sure.
Okay, first off, ranked choice voting is the smallest step in a positive direction that we can take, and it's a step toward a local minimum, so to speak. It's away from much better things that we could do rather than toward them. If we remove that restriction that says vote for only one, just remove it. Don't rank the voting. Don't say we have to decide which one of these to eliminate and then run another round of counting. Instead of doing that, just remove the restriction, and we will be closer to systems such as score voting, which are even better yet. By removing that one restriction from most of the voting in the USA, we would have approval voting, which is actually better than ranked choice.
What is the process that would allow you to do that? What's the process that would allow you to do that?
Well, it depends on the state, unfortunately, because different states, because the states implement the voting. Different states have different laws. And in some cases, of course, if you're talking city elections and county elections, in some cases, they're doing their own as well. So people would have to work out how in each one. So the most important thing to do isn't like I mean, each one of us isn't going to be able to go in and do it. Somebody will have to actually make the steps to get it done. The most important thing is to
Dak, what are the steps to get it done? I'm in favor of ranked choice voting. I don't know if I'm in favor of your, just remove this restriction, but what would you stop?
Fine, then.
Stop.
Oh, sorry.
Did you not hear me talking?
Yes, I didn't mean to talk over you. I was just agreeing.
Agree quietly in your head while I'm talking. I'll get there. I'm in favor of ranked choice voting. Oh my God. I don't know if I'm in favor of this other option, but what we asked you was, how do we implement it? I have matter of fact, I have negative quantities of tolerance for pie in the sky, impractical solutions that have no possibility of being implemented right now. What is the actual viable plan that you have that we can, in fact, implement now to fix this? Because I give less than half a fuck about pie in the sky. Ooh, we should go to ranked choice voting. I agree. We should change this. I agree. What is the fucking plan that does it?
Well, as I was saying, it varies from place to place. Here in Los Angeles, for example, this is a charter city. The people would actually be able to fight for it and get it on the books, but it would take the people actually doing that. In different places, the process is different. People would have to research how do they do it in that area.
So you don't know?
I do know a bunch of them, but like I said, it's not the same in all places. And
why isn't it happening?
Quite a while to go through explaining them. But I did mention one of them. The fact that, what's that?
Why isn't it happening?
Because most people don't realize that it's even a possibility. They don't realize that it's even the problem. They think
is it on a ballot?
The problem is which candidates we get, but we get good candidates. The good candidates eliminate themselves so that they don't take votes away from other nearly as good candidates.
Is it on a ballot?
I don't know if it's on any right now, and I wish it was.
Okay.
Is
wishing a path to fixing it?
No, and I have actually collected thousands of signatures.
Why are you calling us? Why are you calling us to tell us what the plan is if you have no way of implementing the plan?
Well, like I said, the most important part of the plan is for people to talk with each other about it. Because if people are unaware of it, then we can't get enough support behind it to get it done, to get it on the ballot. And yes, getting it on the ballot is one of the best ways in a lot of places. But in order to get it on the ballot, again, how to get it on the ballot varies from place to place, depending on what the rules are there. But one thing that's pretty much guaranteed is that you're going to need a lot of support to do it. And in order to get that support, people have to be aware. And so that is the most important part as a first step. But yes, getting something on the ballot to say, let's get rid of this restriction.
What can we do right now, here tonight, on this show to make people aware of what they can do?
I think you just did by letting me on so I can talk about it. And thank you for doing that. Other people need to talk about it as well. And it's not about my opinion. I mean, you have an opinion, I have an opinion, we all have opinions, but we do need to discuss these things. And I thank you for letting me on to express mine and try to offer a solution. I do have more details, but I don't want to take up a lot of your time. I just wanted to get that out there and try to make the point that if the people start talking about the need to have more options on the ballot, we will get more options on the ballot eventually, because there are people who know how, but they need the support to get it done. For example, there's a negative vote association of Taiwan, or otherwise known as Balanced Ballot, that's been fighting for quite a few years to give people the right to vote directly against someone. They actually got the idea from me many years before that. And it's a pretty
they got the idea group. From you? Taiwan got the idea from you?
Huh?
Taiwan got the idea from you?
Yeah. It's a long story. Sam's running that group. At any rate, I've been doing this for a really long time, literally since 1969.
The nation of Taiwan got their idea for voting from DAC?
No, not the nation. The guy who started that particular association in Taiwan. I know that because I've met him. He talked to me about it. He told me where he got it from. So
Okay. So I have a question, and that is, when Trump said that he had a concept of a plan, is that more of a plan than you have or less of a plan?
Well, as I said, I did say, I have personally collected thousands of signatures. I went out by myself because I couldn't afford to hire people to collect signatures, and done it by myself. And I brought the signatures to Washington, D.C., and I went from office to office to office to office trying to get somebody to pay attention to it. This has been years gone by already. And that's just one of many, many things I've done. I've put a lot of effort into this. I put a lot of work into it. No, I don't have a plan on how to solve it alone as one person.
So you put a lot of work into it. So you put a lot of work into it. How much you put a lot of work into it? How much is the needle moved? And why is your plan B to come on here and tell me how much work you put into it?
Well, it feels to me like the needle has moved substantially, but very, very slowly. And I honestly don't think I'm going to live to see the change happen. I wish I could, but I think that's unlikely because the change has been too slow. But I have seen the change. And I want to encourage people to talk about it and push for the change they think is best, and recognize that democracy doesn't mean we have to agree with each other. It means that we all have to get heard and figure out what's best for all of us collectively. We don't all have to have the same opinion, and we don't all have to vote for the same person, and we don't need political parties to tell us who we're allowed to vote for. We should be able to figure that out on our own. We've got what we've got, and we've got to work within it, but we can do a lot better.
Well, when you get something beyond bumper stickers and signatures that actually represents a practice, I'm sorry, was I fucking talking just then?
Sorry, I did it again. Didn't mean to.
When you get something beyond bumper stickers and plans that have never borne fruit and an actual plan of what we can do, let me know, because I would like to see some change. But I don't understand how in a country where the fascists have taken over, where the rule of law is being set aside, and where a good chunk of the people in power, even those in opposition to others, are feckless, ineffective, do nothing, status quo, centrist. I don't know how you implement any of these changes. I've been a fan of ranked choice voting and a number of other things. I don't know how it's even possible to make these changes. And in many cases, I'm not even convinced it would be legal. And so the number of things that have to change to get to this quasi utopia is something more than, hey, I got a bunch of signatures and the guy that runs this group in Taiwan, I'm the guy that taught him. Congrats.
Yeah.
Go teach others.
Well, I have actually posted some rather substantial details on my what used to be Twitter account. I haven't been on there in quite a while. I think I put some stuff on Facebook years back, on what else? Instagram. There's a lot of details out there. And again, I don't want to take up all of your time.
How many followers you got on Twitter?
Again, it's not about me.
How many followers you got on Twitter? It's about you right now.
I don't know how many. I also just published a book. If you're interested, can I give you the name of the book?
Who published it?
I published it through Amazon.
How many copies have you sold?
I don't think I've sold any yet.
How long's it been out?
About a week, maybe two. I think about a week.
Send me an email.
Sure. Which address?
sans.deity@gmail.com.
I'll do that. Okay. And yeah, I mean, I understand. I didn't bring papers to read off or a script or anything like that. And I understand, that might have been nice, but I wasn't really even expecting this. I never know when your shows are going to happen. I'm really bad with time. So, I saw
you
this.
You never know when the show that I've done every Wednesday night at the same time for years is going to come on. Hey, okay. You're bad with times. You're bad with time, and that might be part of the problem. Does your book actually include a practical plan, or is it more bumper stickers and ideas?
Both.
Cool. I only care about the plan.
Okay, that's fair. And yeah, what I was going to say is, yeah, I heard what Will said earlier about voting, and that was the main reason why I called in. It wasn't the thing I planned to do, so I didn't really come prepared for it. I apologize for not being prepared. But nonetheless, I think there's a decent chance that there are some people out there that might have heard what was said and think to themselves, hey, maybe he's right about this. I should look into it. And if so, maybe there will be some progress because of it. And I think that's worth the effort. So again, I thank you for letting me try.
Okay. Later. I'm not going to fault somebody for completing a book when I still haven't. So everybody in chat was like, no. Congrats, you completed a book. Sorry, you haven't sold any yet. I only care if the book has a practical plan. I've heard lots of ideas. Matter of fact, I would argue that the regular listeners on the line have heard many times over the years, primarily like Jimmy and Jovan and some of the guys that dig in more deeply on politics than I do, but I've talked about it as well. Options like ranked choice voting and things like that. And the problem is they seem like pie in the sky utopian ideas for me right now. No, I'm not saying they're not good ideas. Hey, curing cancer is a good idea. How do you do it? Changing the way the voting works is a great idea. How do you do it? I'm surprised Dak didn't mention my favorite, which is let's get rid of the electoral college.
Yep.
How do you do it? Let's get rid of gerrymandering. How do you do it? It's conversations like this are 100%. I see this problem. Do you see this problem? Yes. We should fix this problem. And here's some alternate things we could. Yes. How do you do that? And how do you do it when the house is on fire? Talking about the fire suppression system and how it's outdated is something you do before the house is on fire. Figuring out how to hook up hoses and how to hook up fire hoses out on the street, that's something you do planning-wise before the house is on fire. When my neighbor's house, right over there, burned down a few years ago, we walked out on the front porch and I streamed it live. I could not believe it. It's the closest I've been to a house fire. And my dad burned down a house that he had. I just wasn't living with him at the time. He was renting a house and working in the garage. And the water heater was in a closet off the garage, and it was gas. And gasoline shot out of the truck that he was working on and made a trail directly to that because of the way the floor was sloped, and burned the whole house down. But watching that house fire across the street was absolutely terrifying and bizarre and unexpected. And everybody standing there could go, wow, that's a shame. We should really do something. Yeah, I mean, the fire trucks are coming. And it's a good thing that we thought ahead of time to give the fire truck something to plug into other than the spigot on the end of my house. But if you don't have a plan and you don't have any power, what are you supposed to do? Don't get me wrong. That point of frustration is getting at all of us. All of us see, hey, here's things that we could change. How do you change it? I'm not suggesting that the change is a bad idea. I'm just tired of everybody calling in to be like, I think we should do it this way. Well, I think we should do it this way. Well, I think somebody should do something some way, but I don't know how to implement any of those. And until somebody gives me a path to implementing it, I'm stuck. I cannot yet come up with a plan. And so this is one of the reasons why I'm glad to have Will on and for the work that Will's doing, because the grassroots level, even though I don't think it's enough right now, I don't know that we've got anything else.
Grassroots is where it's at. You're right. It is a long game for the short term stuff. House is on fire. You got to do something about it. That's not my lane per se, but I know there are people out there that is their lane. So mutual aid orgs, different communities at the local level. Plug into different communities. Look, again, I would start with mutual aid, maybe a Democratic club. So you're going to find more people in that lane in the Democratic club than the Republican club. But you just meet people and you ask around, and they know what to do. They know how to put this house fire out. They're more of a quick, acute phase, I call it in my world. People, and they might have some answers. I don't have the answers for that, but I know people do out there, and that's going to depend on where you're at. But mutual aid, I would start there. They're not everywhere, but if you have one near you, amazing.
Let's we've got Jamie calling from Pennsylvania, pronouns they them. Jamie's a Buddhist that says spiritual practice is creating a barrier between members of a religion. Hey Jamie, welcome to the show. You're on with me and Will. I don't know what you're talking about, so fill us in.
Hi, Matt. In Buddhism, there's a rank for monks called being a repa, and there's a type of meditation called Tilmo, where a monk learns to heat up their body heat. To get the rank of repa, they have to be able to dry a cloth off in the snow using that technique. So I have autism, and I know that with interoception problems, I wouldn't be able to do that. So with politics, I was thinking how that relates to ableism. Should people get a rank just because they can do with technique that others can't do?
I'm lost.
Oh, there's a technique in Buddhism where the monks meditate and they can raise their body temperature. They can raise it enough to induce a fever. This has been studied scientifically by American researchers, and there's a test where they get a rank if they can maintain the technique long enough to cause the cloth to go from being wet to dry. So, and the topic's kind of with how there's ableism with that. And I want to ask you if you think about other things in politics that.
I don't understand how we got to ableism. Okay, I'm fine with the notion that meditation can be useful and can have physiological effects on the body. I don't understand where the ableism comes in, and I have no idea what the point is.
All right. Some people get a rank because of something they're able to do.
Okay. How is that different from anything else anywhere? If, like, for example, if I'm a collegiate runner,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not good enough to compete in this division, but I'm good enough to compete in this division, that's not ableist. But also, I'm not following.
I would say it's more like if I don't know, the Yankees get the best players because of their budget being higher. It's like the idea of why not just have the best people only be allowed to play. Sometimes you just have to let people that are not as good play.
I'm sorry, that's not the way professional sports ever works. It is absolutely, and I'm only vaguely sorry for this, it is absolutely asinine to suggest that the Major League Baseball or the NBA should just allow anybody to come in and play. It would destroy the sport. The competition needs to be between the best.
I know that. I'm trying to make the point with just not pros, just normal.
Why should I give a fuck if a Buddhist organization is giving some people awards for achieving something that other people haven't achieved?
because they influence voter blocks.
You think that Buddhist organizations giving ranks to people for accomplishments within Buddhism is an ableist issue that we should care about because it influences voter blocks? Are there a lot of voter blocks being influenced by Buddhists?
I do not know.
How many Buddhists are winning elections, and how did the ranking of meditative experts impact any election in the history of the world?
I do not know that.
And yet that was your claim. So how are you making claims that you don't know?
I don't think I made that claim.
Hey, Jamie. Hey, Jamie, can I conclude that the distillation of why you called is because you care about equality and equity generally?
It is, but it's more about how this applies to one religion and it can apply to others. And it can cause a mentality.
So one religion, but all other religions are preferential, and therefore it erodes equality, equity in society in general.
Yeah, the mentality that you have to have a skill or be a good person or whatever to actually be a good person in office.
Wait.
I think, yeah, it sounds like you do care about equity. So I would recommend you shift from the Buddhist target to encouraging humanism in your orbit. I think that goes a long way with what you're trying to say. If you're not quite sure what humanism is, which is kind of difficult to explain, American Humanist Association has a great website. They can unpack that for you, and I think you'll find a lot of nuggets there.
I mean, when it comes to Buddhism, I think I'm more bothered by their general classist marginalizing the practices where they are not opposed, where they're not advocating for equality. Like, I don't mind if what's the benefit of learning how to meditate to the point where you can raise your body temperature if there's no special recognition that you can do something somebody else can't do?
I don't think I would be the best person to answer that.
Well, I don't know what else to do then, Jamie, because you're the Buddhist who's coming here to talk about a spiritual practice that's causing a barrier and it might impact voting. And yet every single time I poke at one of the aspects, you don't know, or you're not the guy to address. So are you able to raise your temperature?
No, I do not know how to do that.
Do you want to learn?
It would be interesting to learn it, but I don't intend to.
Is it a problem for you that you can't?
I don't think it is.
Then I have no idea why you raised this, because it's not a problem for you. Who's it a problem for?
I think it's a problem for Buddhist groups to have that ranking system, and
Why?
that it's I think the mentality among every religion voting for people based on their moral characters or abilities is a problem.
You think it's a problem to vote for people based on their moral character and abilities? What criteria could I possibly care more about than someone's moral character and their abilities when trying to put them in a position as a public representative acting on behalf of the people? What could be more important than that?
The actions they promise to enact when they're in office and whether or not they're able to do those.
So whether or not they're able to do it, I would say that's their capability. And the likelihood that they're going to do what they say they're going to do is about their moral character. So you didn't avoid those two topics. You embodied them in your answer while saying that those aren't the things we should focus on.
Okay. Yeah. I was thinking the moral character, like things other than that. But that's a good point, Matt.
Well, even if somebody is unable to actually enact the things that they're advocating for, if they're of good moral character, isn't that better than putting in someone who's of bad moral character?
I don't think so.
You don't think it's better to have people of good moral character in charge than people of bad moral character? So you're fine with Trump then,
No.
right?
I think that his character should not be the judge of his actions, and that his actions are bad in themselves.
You don't think actions and moral character go hand in hand?
No, I do not.
So you don't think people of bad moral character are more likely to do bad things?
I don't think it's relevant to governance.
Okay, so you're fine with rapists protecting child traffickers. That's bad moral character to me, and you're okay with that.
I think the law is independent of the morality of it.
I don't think that's remotely an answer to the question that I asked, because I didn't ask about the law. Are you suggesting that it should be legal to traffic children?
No.
Is it immoral to traffic children?
Yes.
Then don't we care about someone's moral character as to whether or not they are in favor of or opposing that? The fact that it took you this long means I'm going to move on. Thanks.
All right. Bye, Matt.
Thanks. Think about it some more, Jamie. You're there, and whatever you're struggling with, I don't know. I'm not the guy to help, because I think moral character is an indicator of not just what you're willing to say, but how likely what you're willing to say maps to what you're actually thinking. So, for example, Trump is a liar constantly. I've got the best poll numbers I've ever had. No, he doesn't. I've done more for the economy and boosting the economy than anybody else. No, that's not true either. The economy's in the best shape it's been. That's not true either. The doctor gave me an MRI, said it's the best result he's ever seen. The doctor might have said that, but I don't believe that it's true or relevant or anything else. This is an individual. If somebody isn't of sufficient moral character that you can believe them when they say something, that's how you get in this position. That's how everybody, left, right, and center, distrusts and justifiably distrusts the government, the official message from the government, because once upon a time, the official message from the government was among the best resources available. Didn't mean it was always true, but it was among the best resources available. But this administration has started scrubbing scientific facts, medical facts, societal facts from government websites. And they've started firing the people who are saying what the real numbers are. That is absolutely about character. There's nothing illegal about Trump taking down government websites. There's nothing illegal about Trump taking information about vaccines and medicine and crime and jobs. There's nothing illegal about him taking that information down, but there's absolutely something immoral and unethical about taking that information down. If in fact it is accurate, then the president of the United States and his administration are actively working to take good information away from people and either replace it with misinformation or no information. That is about moral character. All right. Final call for today. Nathaniel's been on hold for an hour and a half. And and I greatly appreciate that. And have at it. Nathaniel's calling from Georgia. Pronounce him. Question about black churches in the civil rights era. How does that affect your views on Christianity? What's going on, Nathaniel? You're on with Will and Matt.
Hi, guys. Anyway, damn, I was listening to for so long, almost forgot. What I really wanted to talk about was the civil rights movement, and I don't know if you need background or anything, but I was there. My parents were there. Hell, some of my grandparents were involved with the civil rights movement. My father was even in the Navy and part of the civil rights movement as an equal opportunity officer. And I was part of the NAACP junior people. And the whole thing is that all of that is linked to the black church. And although I question Christianity, I have a hard time dealing with the fact that it was a black church that supported civil rights. How do you guys feel about that?
How do I feel about black churches supporting civil rights?
I listen to you guys when we talk, because I listen to you guys talk about Christianity, and every time you do, I'm like, oh hell, that's bad. Oh hell, that's even worse. Oh hell, God. Oh hell, don't talk to me about God anymore. Jesus Christ was a bad guy. But I know black ministers who were part of the civil rights movement who were more than stand-up people. I mean,
so what? There are plenty of good people who are part. It's not Christianity that did anything. It's people.
Okay.
Christianity Christianity advocated the slavers and advocates for slavery and was used to support that. And while it's absolutely true that Christians were among the groups that helped change civil rights, that doesn't mean Christianity did anything at all. So it doesn't change my perspective on Christianity. Christianity is still not true.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if you investigate that era, you would be surprised at how many atheists, non-believers were in the black community were involved in the civil rights.
I know that. I know. I was in that era. I'm not a young person.
Really good.
I was born in the civil rights era, and I lived through the civil rights era. And I was intimately involved in the civil rights era.
Right. So the church had organization. They had communication. It was a good way to get the word out because we needed communication. This is obviously, as you know, before internet, before cell phones. You needed a way to communicate your ideas and organize. And the church had, again, on top of that, the black church had terrific PR. It was a cover. So I think just the black church or Christianity, let's say specifically, gets a lot more credit for the civil rights movement in the 60s. Again, I'm not saying that they had no role. Yeah, it was great, but yeah. I think their role was oversized. They had just too much. They got too much credit for good that came out of that civil rights movement.
Can we all just agree that there's a difference between here's a black church, here's what a black church does, and here's what Christianity does? Because what is the doctrine within Christianity that black churches relied on to work towards civil rights?
Are you asking a question?
Yeah, I mean, there's a difference between what a church community does and what their religion advocates as a matter of doctrine, right?
Yeah, and the weird thing is, the weird thing is, I spent my father was in the Navy, and we went overseas, and you won't guess where we spent our 3 years overseas at. Take a wild guess.
Israel.
Greece.
No. Taiwan.
Cool. Maybe you could have learned from
so
Dak.
when you ask that guy where the Buddhists actually get elected, and I was like, well, in Taiwan they do.
Yep.
I was there. I saw them get elected. But the whole thing is, while I was in Taiwan, I was a what do you call it, teenager. I had to go to a high school that was run by evangelicals and Southern Baptists who were all the time trying to preach at everybody, but not me so much. Being a black man, being a black boy at the time, they really didn't want to preach at me because they really didn't want me in their church. And I understood that because my father was in civil rights. And he explained to me the difference between white people and black people, whether they're Christian or not. And most of the time, Christians were some of the worst people that I ever met. But that still didn't keep me from becoming Christian later on, marrying in a Christian church, even though it was a black Christian church.
Of course not, because you recognize there's a difference between the people and the religion.
Yes, I understood the difference between the people and the religion. And I understand the difference between white Christians and black Christians.
So why give Christianity
for the most part?
Why give Christianity credit if a black church does something or if a white church does something? I don't understand the need to give Christianity the credit or blame for what individuals do.
Yes, I hear you, and I understand what you're saying. The people that I interacted with, a lot of them were ordained ministers. And it's kind of hard to say that they're not Christian. I mean, yes.
I don't care if they are Christian or not. I don't care if they're Christian or not, and I don't care if what they were doing was consistent with their version of Christianity. The point is, what is it about Christianity that should get credit for civil rights? Because I'm aware of plenty of things within the Bible and within the history of Christianity that are absolutely opposed to equality amongst the sexes or the races or the civil groups or anything. I'm not aware of anything within the orthodoxy of Christianity that should get credit for civil rights.
I believe you. And I'm not saying that. I'm saying that it's hard to put black Christians and white Christians in the same book, although they do worship the same book. But it's hard to put in the same category. That's what I mean. And I understand what you're saying about Christianity. But I don't think you understand that there are many flavors of Christianity out there.
You think I don't understand that there's many flavors of Christianity? Okay.
Not from what you just said. You keep saying Christianity is a bad thing, and hey, I believe you. But the whole thing is that I dealt with very, what do you want to call it, very Christian black people or very black Christian people, either way you want to put it, that were doing good, basically doing good in the neighborhood, that they were doing things, and not only in the neighborhood, but across the state and across the nation. I got to meet several major black politicians.
Why were they doing good?
Why were they doing good?
Yep.
Because they believed in the rights of people.
Yeah. Had nothing to do with believing in Jesus, did it?
No.
And
No,
and
but
I don't
if you-
understand how you can think that I don't know that there's different varieties of Christianity when for 20 years I've talked about exactly that and pointed out that the gay-friendly churches in San Francisco are a very different type of Christianity from Westboro Baptist Church, which is also a different type of Christianity from the Catholic Church, which is there's 1,000 different denominations of Protestant churches. And after having, Will and Mandisa and Tony Penn and countless others on to talk about black churches and things like I'm absolutely aware that there are different varieties of churches. My point is that while some of them have done amazingly good things, it is people doing things on behalf of people and not Christianity doing good things for the world. That's all I was saying.
Oh. Okay, that makes it a lot easier.
Yeah, Christianity is a vile, repugnant collection of bad ideas that is right up there with Islam and Scientology and Hinduism and countless other things. They make all kinds of claims that they can't demonstrate are true, and they often marginalize people and take over their lives and take their money and make them feel as if they're inferior and everything else. However, they also build communities. And the part of the problem is that when your communities are built on this shared value that has a lot of problems and baggage, that gets in the way of doing good more often than it aids in doing good. So the black churches that were doing good things for black people and civil rights were doing so not because they were black churches, but because they were black people saying, our community is getting fucked. And we should get to, I don't need to give a lecture on this, but it's like, it is the people doing things for the people. And that's why I'm all in favor of communities and everything. And what I don't ever ask? I don't ever ask someone who's black how they can be members of the church that enslaved them, because I have a good enough understanding of both black churches and community and how sometimes that's the only community that was actually doing anything productive for individuals, while the rest of a nation and perhaps a world continued to marginalize a group of people, but also recognizing that that is also what helped lead to the cooperative stuff for civil rights. But the Christianity part is irrelevant.
Okay, I do understand that. I do, and I'm not going to say a but or anything like that. I'm just processing a little bit here. The thing that gets me, and all that you said is correct. None of what you said was wrong. I was just trying to get a better perspective. Maybe I've not seen your shows long enough to have heard you say these things directly. Maybe that was my problem.
Maybe I don't say it enough.
That would be your problem.
Let's be honest. I do what I can, but there's also you don't want to come riding in as the great white hope or savior, or here, let me lecture you all about slavery and the civil rights movement and all that stuff. I got all my information from Mandisa and Will and Tony Penn and Cynthia McDonald and Sikivu Hutchinson and others, right down to something that I think gets overlooked, which Will tried to address. And I don't have the book in this room. I've got it in the other room. That specifically goes through the Black free thought movement and how through slavery and up through the civil rights movement, It was black freethinkers. It was black folks standing up both against the political institutions and the religious institutions that helped to lead some of those charges as well. And yet, I don't think we should give credit to free thought, even though free thought's principles are at least consistent with, liberty and opposition to slavery.
Secular humanism.
Sorry, what?
Secular humanism. Excuse my pronunciation.
I think secular humanism is wholly
that free thought
consistent.
and secular humanism go very well together. You also have to remember that a lot of the people who believed in free thought ended up leaving the country. There were a lot of people who did that. Went to Europe or even to Russia.
Taiwan.
Say again?
Sorry, that was just fun.
Yeah. Yes, they went away. Some very famous black people went overseas, especially right after the First World War. See now, my family history starts around that First World War time, as far as being involved in civil rights and anything you want to call as the rebellion against white oppression. But that doesn't mean, and I could say that doesn't mean that that all black people are good and all white people are bad. That would be stupid of me. Number one, because
it'd be stupid of anybody to say that all people
they'll be falling into the same thing as the people who called me names all my life and treated me and my family bad, pushed my sisters into ditches, knocked me down, threw things at me, stabbed at me, burnt me, tried to run me over with a car. Let's see, was that last week? Oh, anyway, those things that they did to me over my lifetime, that I don't blame white people for it. And I really don't blame Christians for it, although most of the white people that were doing it probably were Christians. I have to think about that. But I don't blame them for
just
that.
Statistically. I just don't.
Yes.
I think that Christianity, right, so for example, I think that the Bible can be blamed for things the Bible advocates. When the Bible continually advocates for slavery and never denounces it, I think you can blame the Bible for promoting slavery. I think you can also take people who love and value the Bible and choose different verses from it to stand up in opposition to slavery and to stand up in favor of equality and say that those people have picked elements that they then use to make the things better. The problem is that we don't need the Bible or Christianity for any of those things. Those things are good and completely independent of whether there is a God, whether that's the real God, whether the book says it's good. Something is good or not, independent of what somebody's religion or holy book says. And, you can't, you're right. We can't put everybody, not all white people are anything, not all black people are anything, not even all, you can't even make those categorizations. It's kind of like, how white am I? How black am I?
I believe you.
It's so because this is like the second time I've got where you've called in and talked about the benefits of black churches, and we agree that black churches and black freethinkers working alongside some white churches and some white freethinkers and some people of other more racial diversity as well, all work together for equality. So I give the credit to the people who are doing good for the sake of doing good. And I'm happy to work alongside religious people who are working towards the same goals that I am. The Reverend Barry Lynn used to head up Americans United for Church-State Separation. I loved telling him, we both spoke one right after the other at an event, and I said, I'd like to free everybody in the world from religion, but I'm going to save Barry Lynn last because I need somebody who's religious who agrees with me on church-state separation. And I mean, that's what we were working towards. And at the end of the day, look at Zoran Mamdani. He and I agree on a fuck ton of things, like just oodles and gobs of things. We disagree on religion. I will argue with him till the cows come home if he wants to about religion, and I will call out his religion for the irrational atrocity and motherload of abuses that I find it to consistently be. And note that much like the gay churches in San Francisco or wherever that have rainbows up everywhere, Zoran is a different kettle of Muslim than some others. But Islam is still a problem, and Christianity is still a problem, not the least of which because they advocate for positions that they cannot and do not provide rational, evidence-based support for. And they hurt lives. So I'd rather give the credit to the people and be like, wow, you helped do good even though you're a part of this religion, even though you're a part of this political party, even though you're a part of this group that I would normally not, align myself with. It's all about the people.
I believe, the thing that really gets me, it wasn't until I saw you guys on the line, talk about slavery in the Bible, that I even realized there was slavery in the Bible. And all the 3 years that I got taught Bible classes at that Christian academy, never once did anybody point out those chapters in the book about slavery, about women being property, about genocide, or they glossed over them really, really so fast I didn't notice them. And so my problem right now is, how do I talk to the black churches? Because I deal with them a lot. Most black people, if they're breathing and are involved with politics, deal with black churches. It's even the politicians tell me that. I go to every church, black or white, and every Sunday I'm hitting 4 or 5 different churches. And they said that to me.
I'm sorry, Nathaniel. Every Sunday you go to 4 or 5 different churches. For what purpose?
Not me.
Are you
the black politicians?
Okay. Yeah. I don't care how many churches politicians go to. To me, that's pandering.
I have 2 U.S. senators who visit different churches, even though one is Jewish and the other is a reverend. So, but I've seen them in different churches, mostly black, because we're the Democrats in my state are mostly black. So that's where they're going to. But they have gone to white churches. I just
view that as marketing.
And they've said to me, yeah, it's marketing. It's marketing. You're correct. But that's what they got to do in order to get elected or reelected.
Yep. What a shame that religion has such control over people that you have to pander and misrepresent I have zero respect for Christianity, but I have tons of respect for Christians. Not complete respect. I mean, I was a Christian. I was irrational. And I think that other Christians or other people who are Christians are also irrational. I think that there's been no demonstration that it is a rational or a good thing. That said, I support freedom of religion. But it says a lot about the world when Trump needs to hold up a Bible and sell a Bible, and everybody's got to go make the tour of the local churches so that they can build a connection on this supernatural structure that maybe they believe, maybe they don't believe, but maybe nobody should believe, instead of spending that time actually working together for something good. It's a lot of, hey, let me show you how much like you I am, by pandering instead of working together to make both of our lives better.
I understand you exactly. It sorrows me that they have. It's not that they want to do it. Meaning they want to get reelected. They better we want them to do it. But I mean, if they have to do it if they want to get reelected.
Yep.
It's the way things work in Georgia and in South
It's
Carolina.
one of 50 reasons I won't be elected to anything ever, because I'm not going to run around to churches and lie to them.
Amen. Amen. I agree with you. The same when I've been asked to run for different offices, and I've said, no. You guys have got the souls, you know what I mean, the stamina, or what do you call it, of saints. In order to do that, get in there, smile on the faces of people who are not going to like you. Some are going to hate you just because you're interrupting their Jesus time. And no matter what you're saying is for their benefit, and most of the time it is, they're just not going to like you interrupting their Jesus time.
Yeah. Now, if I were running for office,
that's just the way
I would
goes.
whether I'm running for office or not, I will absolutely take every opportunity that I'm offered to speak to a church. I've done a lot of debates, and I've done debates in churches, not just at a religious gathering or a convention, but actually in churches, at least 4 or 5 times now. And the difference is that I don't lie to them. And I don't go in and try to, no. I'm sitting here saying, I am absolutely opposed to these aspects of your religion. But if we can agree, for example, that something close to a universal basic income is a good idea, something close to let's get health care, and make sure that healthcare coverage is affordable. I don't care if, honestly, I'm sure this would get clipped. If it were a part of reality that Nazi racist bigots were in favor of universal health care and basic income, I'd work side by side with them towards that goal, while pointing out that I'm standing here next. How broken can the rest of you be when even the racist Nazi bigots are in support of this? Who else? You know, what other thing? Now, granted, none of that's actually going to happen because they're not. But I think it's possible.
You're talking to somebody who's marched in parades and festivals and whatnot with people from all different races, different ethnics, and from the different parts of the community, as well as different religions. Because one time I marched with a trans woman and a female rabbi on one side of me. So that was interesting, because not that I had not met trans people before, not that I had not met female rabbis before. It's just that here we are marching in a parade together. I mean, side by side, we're holding up the banner. So we are marching at the front of our group. But that said, I'm still going to have a problem with the Black Christian members of my family. I'm just really getting into this now since my mother died and my father's been gone for a while, and I've lost most of my uncles and aunts. So I am old enough that the people that would have held me back are no longer there anymore. But I still have friends in the community. I still have friends who are politicians.
Well, I'm gonna jump in real quick, Nathaniel. I only have one recommendation, and then I want Will to give recommendations as well. And then I've got to move on. But I'd recommend reaching out to Recovering from Religion. They have lots of resources there, including the Psychotherapy Project, but also it's a lot more people who've been through things. I'm really sorry to hear about the loss of your mom and other family members. And it sounds like you're taking some stock and inventory of where your life's going to go from here and how you're going to deal with it and what baggage you may hang on to and what you might let go of. And I think the Psychotherapy Project and Recovering from Religion might have benefits, but Will might have other resources that I'm not aware of or have forgotten.
Well, thank you.
If you're interested in the history of Black free thinkers, Chris Cameron wrote an amazing book with that title. It'll give you a comprehensive history, including the civil rights era, on Black free thinkers of all stripes. So it's a super interesting book. And then, anything by my friend Dr. Anthony Pinn, whether it's on the YouTubes or the books, he's an amazing resource. Ex-preacher, now a humanist, and a fine one at that.
True.
Oh. Okay. All right. I'll look that up. Well, thank you.
Thank you, Nathaniel. I appreciate the call and the thoughts. And I hope you find ways to kind of reach a point where you come to grips with the aspects of this that are, more difficult. I think there's some options out there, that are helpful, but mostly it's things are a mess. And let's see, irrespective of the color of their skin or the religion that they profess adherence to, if we can just do our best to find decent people and work together to help everybody, including the ones who were tempted to say, you know what, we're only going to help the best people, and instead work to maybe help everybody.
I do believe you, which is one of the reasons why I joined my local Democratic Party. And mainly the reason I kept going back to the meetings is because there's some damn good people there. And that was the whole thing. There are good people out there, and I've met them.
I have as well. I appreciate you so much, Nathaniel. Thanks for calling in. We gotta run. We gotta get on to super chats and everything else for tonight. But take care of yourself, and especially thanks for waiting on hold for so long.
No problem. Thank you very much.
You have a good night. So, Will, I'm gonna bring Arden back in for just a moment to redo the announcements and also give an update on the shows for the next week, because I'm the sick, lazy guy that didn't do anything, and that'll cue it up for us to be able to do super chats. So, lovely producer person.
Yes. Hello.
The floor is yours.
All right. Yeah, I just want to remind you guys that we are doing another LineCon this Saturday, November 22nd at 3 p.m. Central Time. This week featuring Seth Andrews, Austin Archer, and Luxander, covering the topics you can see here on the screen. Patrons of the $15 and up tier will all get access to this, including a live Q&A portion at the end of these talks. Patrons below the $15 tier will get access to this before it goes to YouTube, and then it'll come to YouTube months later. So if you want to get access, go support us on patreon.com/calltheline to be a part of this month's LineCon Online Live. And remember, next month is going to be free to everyone because how much money you guys raise for the Secular Student Alliance. So props to you guys on that. And then awesome. Quick rundown of our week of shows coming up before we turn it over to the super chats. Let's see, this is not loading. Hold on, give me a sec.
So on Thursday at 2:00 is the Transatlantic Call-In Show. And for those of you who don't know, that is your opportunity to engage with actual, living, breathing, real life trans people who aren't claiming to be cis, who can explain to you whether or not you're transphobic, why it matters, and just answer the curious questions you've had. And you don't have to worry about framing everything correct, and you don't have to worry about pissing me off by dishonestly going after a tiny portion of the population as if it's a significant factor in why you're an awful human being. But who's on tomorrow?
Tomorrow is going to be Josie and Luxander, although my schedule is being super weird, but I think I just got it up in a different window. Here we go. All right, so yes, it'll be Luxander and Josie tomorrow at 2 p.m. Central Time on TACIS. This Sunday at the early show is going to be Matt and Owen Morgan. The late show at 7 o'clock Sunday will be Forrest Valkai and John Gleason. John Gleason will be with Paula Gia on Monday on Skeptalk. Chewed Gum next Tuesday will be Erica Gutsa Gibbon with Taylor Skeptical Heretic. And then we'll have Jim Barrows here next week on the Hang Up. So stick around, hit the notification bell on all those events so you won't miss them. And all right, that's all I have.
All right. I had to respond to somebody in chat, even though I've largely been not paying attention to and not commenting in chat, but we had a little bit of fun. Somebody said, it's always funny how Dillahunty butters up Arden so she will do his job. What a typical man thing. And then they put the little /S in for sarcasm. And I said, true, but unlike other typical men, I actually love to listen to her. So.
I can't tell if that's a compliment or a diss. Like most men are
it's
like
a diss to all the other men.
They're walking away the second I start talking. I don't think so.
No. Other men typically don't care to listen to women. All right, super chats, and we're doing all over $5 that come in, and we'll take turns. And then when we run out of them, then I'm going to run away and go be ill. Although I will say, we're already 20 minutes past when I thought we were going to have to quit. So as always, something about doing the show makes me feel better.
You look better, man. You look like shit. You look like shit when you first came on, but you look decent now.
Thanks.
Perked up.
You should ask Arden. We were out, like, I basically laid on the couch today with, just feeling blah and napping on and off and upset. And it was like an hour before we were getting ready to sit down for the show, and we were doing some workout in the garage, and I was cutting my hair. And I was like, how big of a problem would it be if I decided not to do the show tonight? And she goes, big. And so I was like, okay, I'll just suck it up because I don't want to tell Will I got to cancel it anyway. So I will just be a grown up and go to work sick. And while I still feel ill, I feel better. So huge thanks to everybody for putting up with I had lower tolerance today than I wanted to have, but holy crap, I'm so exhausted in this political landscape of people talking about wonderful ideas that all of us already know about and with no plan for making them come to fruition. Hey, why don't we solve world hunger? I'm in favor. But £5 from Barbara Barrett, J8F. No context for you. That's fair.
$10 from the Atheist Mechanic. Hopefully, we get the Epstein file soon. If Bubba Blowy can actually live up to his word. Hope you're doing well, Matt. Looking forward to the show and hearing from today's guest. That is me.
That is. And I didn't mention in my opening the Epstein thing about what I found interesting was Epstein's brother sent a message to Jeffrey Epstein to ask Steve Bannon to ask Putin if he had the photos of Trump blowing Bubba. What I find most interesting about that is that he doesn't say if he has photos of, but he says if he has the photos of. And that suggests that either in reality or as an inside joke or whatever, I don't know, there's a concept that there are photos of this that exist. And then what was even funnier is that his brother came out and said that Bubba did not refer to Bill Clinton. And I'm like, okay, cool. Who or what did Bubba refer to? Because we know, or at least I've heard, that Ghislaine Maxwell had a horse called Bubba. And then I don't know what it's about. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what we do and don't get out of these Epstein files. And the other thing is that by initiating an investigation into the Democrats, even if all this goes through and he signs it, it could be, we're going to release all the things that aren't part of the current investigation. And then there could be more scrubbing. The problem is that there's nobody in the current administration that is trustworthy. And there's a bunch of feckless centrist Democrats who caved the moment they had a hint of power, who couldn't get anything done until Jewish space laser queen of Georgia decided to turn against Trump. This is the most bizarre timeline. But $5 from Raise a Village. When Republicans start saying underage women instead of children, I was floored. I shouldn't be shocked by MAGA anymore, but I am. Yes.
$9.99 from Greg Markowski. Hey, Greg. Thanks for the show, Will and Matt. Yay. And I like the... It's clever. Yeah, my name's supposed to be 4 letters. Yours is supposed to be 4. And so he shortened both. Well played, Greg. Well played.
It's extraneous letters. We don't need those.
I love the 3-letter Will.
$10 for Merritt Ingebrigtsen. And I'll just say thanks.
Yeah, she's an amazing human being. I think she just. I did this one time where I didn't know to leave a message, but she's a light in this world.
Oh well, I hope if I haven't got to meet her yet, that I hope that I do. Because it's funny. The other day I did an interview with Seth Andrews. I don't know why I have to add Andrews. It's not like there's another Seth people are going to suspect, but we talked about a great deal of things. We talked about, time in the movement. We talked about politics. We talked about the fact that I'm a hothead. Talked a lot about snakes and reptiles and everything else. And of course, the comments on the YouTube video were absolutely predictable. The folks who are fans of what we do were like, yay, I get to listen to Matt and Seth. And then the folks that have a bone to pick with me over something, it was very obvious. There were 3 people that I saw that came in to basically pick a bone with me. One of them, actually 2 of them I predicted were going to be transphobes. And one of them absolutely was, as it turns out. And also an Andrew Wilson fan, because they're like, oh, don't let Matt fool you when he acknowledges being a hothead. He'll never admit that he was wrong about anything. And I was like, wow, that's a bold claim, because there's 20 years of me doing content like this. And I remember many occasions where I acknowledged being wrong and, whatever else. But I get it. And so I was like, well, maybe it would help if you would tell me one thing that you think I'm wrong about that I need to acknowledge. And he immediately came back with you were wrong to walk out of that debate with Andrew Wilson. And I was like, thank you for acknowledging exactly what we knew. You were. I'm sorry that you don't understand or value integrity. And I'm sorry that you think I should stay and do a job that is different from the job I was being paid to do, while somebody sits there as a fascist mocking trans people's unaliving themselves. Amongst other things. I don't need to sit there and do that. But if you think that was a mistake on my part, you're welcome to think that. I don't think that was a mistake. So you're right. I'm not going to acknowledge that was a mistake. But when that's the number one you list, when you come up on a video on day one and you're like, Matt won't acknowledge his mistakes, you wouldn't acknowledge that it was a mistake to leave that debate. You're right. I will not acknowledge that it was a mistake to leave the debate because I absolutely do not think that it was. The only mistake that happened that weekend was that we were, so we were all there with Arden and everybody. And I think we were within driving distance of hanging out with Will, and we didn't. That was the mistake for that weekend. But then the other person was someone who said, "Oh, I went into one of Matt's gaming things, and he has this no backseating rule. And I tried to offer suggestions on how to play the game, and he went off on me big time." And I was like, "So what you're saying is, you saw the no backseating rules, you broke them, and then even after I called you out about it, about how you don't respect boundaries and you're ruining my gaming experience by helping me when I don't want help. Now you just unfollow and then whine to anybody who will listen. Sounds like I made the right choice removing you from my life." I like people who respect boundaries.
$5 from Stephen G. Clinard, 1766. Bernie Sanders totally would have been elected president if more people had voted for him. I like it.
If enough more, not just more, because if only 2 more people had voted for him, that wouldn't be enough. But if enough more, I agree. Good job. The thing is, I've always been a Bernie fan, and I was more fond of Elizabeth Warren most of the time than I was Bernie Sanders. And I was very supportive of Elizabeth Warren. And I was supportive of her right up until the primary, where it was clear that she was not going to be a viable candidate. But Bernie still was possibly viable. And I voted for Bernie in those primaries. And then once he was no longer a candidate, I did what I think I'm supposed to do, which is I picked the best remaining candidate that was a viable option. And I did it every time. Vote your conscience, vote your values each time, but from candidates that are viable and in the running. That's how you begin to make changes. When enough people start voting for, look what happened with Mamdani. But if enough people are finally getting involved with democratic socialism, where AOC, and although there's a weird thing going on right now with AOC and AOC and Mamdani not endorsing a democratic socialist that's just announced they were going to be running against another Democrat. They were going to challenge Hakeem Jeffries, and for some reason Mamdani and AOC are not endorsing that person. And I don't know enough about it yet. Literally, this popped up on my watch list while I was half dozing on the couch today. So rather than going into it, I just want to make people aware that there are other democratic socialists, and they're not all in lockstep, and they're not all saying, let's only support the democratic socialists. One of the nice things, which I really love about a good chunk of these, of the other democratic socialists, is all they want is to pick the best candidate. And that's people who are going to be working towards the changes that we're looking for, and not being a puppet of this industry or a puppet of this political action committee, or a puppet of Israel's right no matter what under all circumstances type thinking. Nobody's right under all circumstances except me. I have to say that because I've been called out for never, ever, ever acknowledging when I'm wrong. Oh, this is me. Sorry. $5 from Raise the Village. LOL, Brad. Nah, you're still going to see me and still going to be jealous of my fabulous A and the rest of me too. Thanks for playing Chucklehead. Okay.
Attitude. $10 from Dante Verona 9815. In 2016, Trump got 6.9 million votes, then 74 million votes, then 77 million votes. My patience has long since expired. I'm done being cute. I will be directly blunt with Republican voters. They've earned their criticism. Valid point.
Yeah, to be fair, in 2016, the population of the United States was 322 million. And in 2025, it's 342 million. So population has increased 20 million over that time span. And if you were to make appropriate adjustments, I don't think that the increase in votes dramatically outpaces the increase in population generally. But I mean, because that's basically 14, 17 million votes. But that would be like 3/4, 2/3 to 3/4. So maybe it does dramatically outpace the population growth. I should have done the math before I.
Yeah, especially if those are babies. If there's a lot of immigrants in those 20 million, I think that's valid. But if they're counting babies.
Yeah, I mean, it's total population, but I mean, the voting population would have shifted by approximately the same amount, because also there's not a huge baby boom right now. It's just, I mean, people are living longer because, you know, we have medicine. That's going to change. Thanks, RFK. One of these days, I want to get back on where when we finally get out from under all the politics stuff, I'd love to get your thoughts and comments on RFK Jr. and, you know, health issues and just how awful things can get or could get under the right circumstances. Because when you start firing people at the CDC and scrubbing data from government websites, and endorsing pseudoscience and anti-vax stuff, I mean, it genuinely feels like that might be a bigger threat than some of the other stuff we spend more time on.
How many times can I say fuck on one show? What's my allotment?
Oh, there's no fucking limit. You can just, like, I tell you what, as a matter of fact, everybody who's opposed to RFK Jr., send in a $5 super chat that just says fuck RFK Jr., and I'll have Will read all of those, and he can add an extra fuck to every one of them. In the meantime, though, $5 from Joshua Effort 9887. Laws vary from state to state. Get you some books on tape to learn about holes in space. I have to admit, I don't get that. But I know it's musical because of the notes.
$5 from Kayla Albertson. DAC should work to get states to sign the Interstate Compact to abolish the Electoral College. That would be an immensely powerful step. Yeah, it's going to take a constitutional amendment. A lot of signatures for that one.
We're also in a really weird spot where it's even more difficult than ever to make the changes, because the courts are a mess, because the administration seems to ignore the courts. And so we're basically having battles where some aspects of the federal government are currently trying to tell the states how they can and can't run their election, which is unconstitutional, as the running of elections is constitutionally reserved power of the states to do, which is why when we were talking about this, it was, things are different in different states. Yes, we know. And this is one of the reasons why I don't know if I'm opposed to state rights. I don't give a rat's ass about state rights. I think there's very few things that should be left up to the states, because if we're the United States, then people's rights and privileges should be pretty much the same no matter which of the United States they're in. I shouldn't have to flee Texas to be able to feel safe, be safe, and experience dignity. It's bizarre to me that that's something people are considering, and it certainly shouldn't have to leave the United States. $5 from Infinite Saxon. Matt, we can ditch the electoral college by using the National Popular Vote Compact. no amendment, just math and momentum. What's your take? Curiously, there's no momentum, no initiative, and no likelihood that it's going to happen because there's no one actively working to get it on a ballot. And so we've been talking about eliminating the electoral college for ages, and I'm in favor. But what's the path to doing that? I get that it can happen with a vote. All kinds of things can happen with a vote, which is also why I don't understand why it's strategically unwise to go after the voters. You can give them a narrative. You can give them the positives. You can talk about what we can do different. But if people aren't even willing to become the bare minimum of informed, we're fucked. If there are 70 some odd million voters out there, 77 million voters who either despise the left or the Democrats or the liberals, or love the right or MAGA or Trump, to the point where they cannot even be bothered to learn how things work, what is or isn't working, whether tariffs are something that's going to cost them money, whether or not the economy is better or not. If they can't be bothered to engage enough to not be wrong about the bare minimum, how do you inspire? This is what I'm saying. How do you affect change like that? Oh, we can just let's eliminate the electoral college on the ballot. I guarantee, I would bet all of my life savings, which is like $47, I think, that if you were managed to get the elimination of the electoral college on the ballot, it would not currently win. And it would also follow along party lines. And it would be about a 25 to 30% left vote in favor and about a 10% right vote in favor, and a bunch of centrists just all over the place. That's my completely uninformed guess. I could be miles wrong. But right now, I don't see any reason not to think in those terms. Because how do you convince someone that this is a good thing when they can't even agree on what is reality? You know, are they eating the cats and dogs? Can you just drink some ivermectin or shoot sunlight up your ass? Are vaccines causing autism? Is the resurgence of measles because RFK Jr. is a dangerous lunatic being guided potentially by a brainworm? Is it the case that sex is absolutely binary? There's XX and XY, and you can tell instantly by looking at someone? I mean, this is the level of stupidity that we're up against. And I don't say stupidity in the sense that these aren't people that are unintelligent, and they're not even just people who are uninformed. Stupidity, for me, is willful voluntary ignorance. Not a low IQ. I don't give a shit about IQ. Not uncredentialed. I don't care about credentials. There are some batshit crazy, stupid as fuck PhDs out there. I know, I've debated some of them. As Randy used to say, I think Randy used to say it was PhD stood for piled high and deep. But he also said some other stuff. In any case, I know that we can do this sort of stuff. But what it takes is a campaign of teaching people and getting people to care enough about being taught, learning, and then taking action. And I don't know what else to try. I'm all in favor of doing more, but all I can do for right now is keep preaching, essentially, and getting involved with grassroots stuff when we can, and hope that we can get a groundswell of the sort of excitement. I think right now, the de facto Republican Party, the de facto Democratic Party, the Democratic leadership, I've already called for Chuck Schumer to resign and for the 8 others and Hakeem Jeffries to be fucking primaried. And honestly, I mean, I'd love to never have to look at whether it's a D or an R or an I after somebody's name. I'd love to know enough about their positions and be excited for voting something. The people in Kentucky who wanted to vote to keep Mamdani from becoming the mayor of New York, I agree with them on one thing. I wish I could have voted in the New York mayoral election, because I'd have voted for Mamdani in a heartbeat. But I can't. And so I'm glad he won. But I understand wanting an input in things like this, because that was the first time in a long time where I felt there was something to vote for. Like, I supported Kamala because it's, at that point, it's her or Trump. I had big issues with her, even when she was running with Biden as vice president, because of her period of time in California and how she treated sex workers when she was AG. And I have a number of other problems with her as well. But she was absolutely the better option. And I think she would have been an acceptable, tolerable president that could have put us in a position to start maybe making some other changes. There's a case to be made that, nope, we had to hit rock bottom. Well, welcome to rock bottom. And as the Epstein files start to come out, assuming they do start to come out, I think there's going to be, for lack of a better term, a serious come to Jesus meeting with the Republicans and potentially some chaos. And the only way that the left loses this is if the right decides they give more fucks about continuing to stand up in opposition to the left than they do about standing up for what's right. Not the right, what is right. Because right now they are excusing the most vile things. They are excusing a president that is publicly, visibly, vocally misogynistic and awful, and excusing dictators and murder and shitting on reporters that are doing their job, which means by definition, he is actively working to further misinform the American public. And that makes him a traitor, along with all the other things he does that make him a traitor. All right.
$5 from secular Philanist. I hope I said it right. In America, we call it an elevator. In the UK, it's called a lift. I guess we were just raised differently. Jolly good. Brilliant. Brilliant.
Oh, are you sure you didn't steal that from Alishana Silverbow? Because that was an epic level dad joke type thing. $5 from Infinite Sacks. And Matt, I asked someone how they know their belief is true. They said, because I don't know that it isn't. Congratulations, I met Schrodinger's theologian. Yeah. Yeah. It is when you ask them, though, if you take that same person and you say, hey, if the number of blade grass on the planet is either even or odd, and you can't show that it's odd, does that mean it's even? They'll almost immediately say, no, of course not. And yet, I think the difficulty here is that there are some beliefs that people think are so important that it is just untenable for them to not take a position. Like, oh, whether or not there's a God is something I'm not allowed to say I don't know. And you absolutely are, and it's the right answer. I mean, congratulations, you don't know. Nobody knows. As far as I can tell, there might be a God that's hiding from everybody, and there might be a God that's not hiding from everybody, but is hiding from me. Or there might not be a God. And until somebody can demonstrate one way or the other, the fact that you haven't demonstrated one doesn't mean the other is true. That's just fallacious. And they'll recognize that in a bunch of circumstances, but something about the God question, especially when there are millions of believers, and because the supposed impact of belief is so significant, just feels like it's got people convinced that they're not allowed to say, oh, I don't know, but they should.
Five SGD. Dang, I don't know what that is. From Max B101. As secular feminist, that joke is good on so many levels. Yes.
Oh my God. Nice.
Pushing the buttons.
It's pun night. Hang on. I think we're getting ready to get another one. $5 from Aliashana Silverbow. Secular felinist. I'll see your elevator joke and raise you an escalator joke. My first time on one was quite uplifting. The second time was a letdown.
I am a fan of these dad jokes. I love them.
Right now, Erica would be screaming silently because she's polite. It's all good.
$17, I think New Zealand dollars, from Linkeron one. Linkeron. Hey, Matt and Will, have either of you watched Stranger Things? And if so, are you excited for season 5 finale in a week's time? Anyway, much love from New Zealand, and my heart goes out to you all. Thank you. I love Stranger Things. I instantly imprinted on those nerds that very first time I watched it, the first season. Instant, that was me. So yeah, even though it got kind of weird, I watched them all because I imprinted so early with them.
Exactly.
I didn't know it was the finale was next week. I'll watch it. I won't watch it next week, but I'll watch it eventually.
I loved it. I think the first season was awesome. The second season was good. I think each season has gotten a little bit weaker.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not especially excited for season 5. But I do plan to watch it. I'm invested enough in it. It reminds me of like Arden and I just went through and watched all the seasons of True Blood, which I don't know if I did when it first aired. I watched most of it. I just don't know if I got to the end. And the final season was so that it felt more like I'm this far into it. I'll slog through the end. I hope that Stranger Things doesn't feel like that. But if it does, I'll still have fond memories because the first season, they're playing D&D down in the basement and riding their bikes. And that's when I was growing up.
In the 80s too. That was me. Yeah.
I'm 56. That thing is right up my alley, going to the arcade, even though we lived too far from the arcade for me to really get to go very often. I lived out in the country. So it was extra special when I was near an arcade. $5 from the Atheist Mechanic. You're supposed to read these.
Oh, fuck RFK Jr. Censors won't let me say the full word. I can say it.
And you can add as many as you need to, because all these are coming in with the RFK stuff.
$5 from Stephen G. Clitter, 1766. Fuck RFK Jr. $5, Raise a Village. Fuck RFK Jr. and the horse he rode in on. Yeah.
Hey, let's not go after horses.
Especially Bubba.
Yeah. Oh, there's a callback.
$20, California. Yay. I know it's like kind of Canadian. Ursula Ursus. Here's $20 Canadian. Fuck RFK, fuck RFK, fuck RFK, fuck RFK, eh?
4 times. And you even got an A in there. Hey, there's more.
$5, Empress Lizard 81. Fuck RFK Jr. Oh, that felt good.
They do. I'm a little jealous, but I promised them, and they're paying for it. So you get to keep saying fuck RFK. I'll say it later.
$5 from Alishana Silverbow. Alishana. A pox on the RFK Jr. Thou art a knave, most foul, and fuck you.
Indubitably.
$5 from The Truth Waits. Fuck RFK Jr. from all nurses. Absolutely. My mom's a nurse. I know a ton of nurses. I am An extra fuck for the nurses.
Hell yeah. I was in the hospital a couple times over the last few years between having triple bypass and then some sort of ischemic issue that might have been me just poisoning myself with energy drinks with my blood sugar issues and everything else. But love the medical teams. But man, some of the nurses that I got, I never needed to see a doctor or wanted to see a doctor. Just give me the nurse to come in and actually give me a quick breakdown. As a matter of fact, last time I was in there, we went to the ER. They did a CT scan of my brain. I have the picture of it. There was some sort of error, and instead of doing it again, it looks like there's a hole missing from my brain. And they admitted me and then did an MRI. And the MRI came out essentially normal. There were a few like micro stroke type things that were years old or whatever else. Nothing that contributed to the episode that I had. But they got those results in the evening and admitted me and kept me overnight. And despite the fact that they knew those results in the evening, the doctor just fucked off and went home. Nobody talked to me about what was going on or what the state was. And in the middle of the night, as I'm sitting there, awake and going, gosh, what are they going to tell me in the morning? This must be bad if they're keeping me. The nurse came in and we were talking, and she's like, nobody's talked to you about your results yet? And I was like, no. And she's like, well, I can't officially give you details on them, but I have seen them, and I can tell you can go to sleep and not worry. They'll talk to you in the morning.
Oh, I love that.
And I was like, I love you. I can't believe the doctor just bailed on me like that. But you have more work to do, sir.
Let's do this. $5 from Trudelbug. As a nurse, I agree. Fuck RFK Jr. Yeah. Oh, those feel good. Love my nurses.
I'm going to steal this one from you because it doesn't say RFK Jr., and I'll add that. So $5 from more 7 of 7, 17. Why not just do 6, 7? It's so much easier. Late to the game. Fuck RFK Jr. Fuck him in his fucking brainworm fucking face.
Feels good. $17 New Zealand from Linker Run 1. From the season 5 trailer and first poster, it looks like there's going to be more of the kids riding bikes. Yeah.
Cool. $5 from Joshua Everett. Bubba the horse did nothing wrong, probably. I think you're probably correct. I think it's unlikely that the horse did anything truly wrong. I think we should not be fucking horses or anything like that. Just my 2 cents.
Why the long face, though? $10 from @LordBand6584. Atheist activists like myself, yay, exist on a calmness spectrum dubbed the Matt Seth continuum. From volatile as nitrogen triiodide, versus getting shot in the foot and quietly excusing yourself in ASMR. Bleeding.
I will say that I'm always going to be me. And there's, I think there's room, I have plenty of room for improvement, and I think I'm making some improvement. But I will say, the more Seth has started doing live call-in shows, I think there's a case to be made that his fuse is getting noticeably shorter.
I've seen
it.
I'd
like to remind people that while I definitely can have a short fuse, I have circumvented that fuse on a number of occasions, but I've also done this for 20 years, and much the same way I could spot those 2 phony-ass callers inside of a sentence today, what I've decided I'm going to start doing is when I catch them out, the new game I'm going to play with myself is let me ask them the questions that get them to answer and expose that they are fraudulent bullshit callers to everyone without having to actually say it. It's the only reason I keep watching chat is because there'll be a parade of people that, now granted, I've seen people do this too, where they're like, oh, this is a troll, this is a troll, this is a troll. And they're wrong. This is just genuinely somebody who, has weird beliefs and is irrational or whatever else. But I want to have more fun exposing the bullshit. But also, let's be honest. If I had my way, there would only be honest conversations here, and only honest conversations with people who are willing to answer the questions that are difficult. The ones that are like, okay, why is MAGA right? Oh, it offers hope. Great. Hope for what? I don't know, tax breaks. I mean, come on now. We all knew, but I played games with myself over the years of seeing how quickly I could figure out what their argument was going to be based on what they said at the outset. And while that worked really well for being prepared to take on seemingly any argument, it wasn't always good for teaching or for the audience because, I've seen it 5,000 times and I rush to the end, whereas somebody might be seeing this for the first time, or somebody else might not be able to spot the same thing that I can instantly spot and I can't even describe what it is. So instead of just rushing right to the end, I also have a bad habit of asking the question that will shut down the entire thing right at the beginning. And so my new game, I'm going to type what I think is the terminal question into my notes and then ask the other questions and see if we can't go on a little longer. But I don't want to do that with people who aren't honest. I don't want to sit here and waste everybody's time with a prank caller who's, oh, can we piss Matt off? Oh, can we avoid answering the question? Oh, can we say something transphobic? Oh, can we, trigger the libs and get the tears out? I don't want to do it with that. And the weird thing is that if you don't have many of those callers, it's like you're not getting many callers these days. There are not a lot of sincere defenders of either their faith or their MAGA. But anyway, this show went on way longer than a show that I thought was going to end quickly. Huge thank you to our guest tonight, Will Jeudy. Will, where can people find you and where should they go to start getting more involved in grassroots politics to make the changes that we hope we can make?
I think it all starts with the endorsement lists. So Center for Free Thought Equality has their endorsement list, and this is nationwide. You can find one in your area. You don't have to support someone that lives near you, but it kind of helps. CFequality.org. And again, they vet these people. This is an endorsement list. These candidates advocate for church-state separation. They're through the prism of how we want the world to see these candidates are, and they're worth your energy, your money, your time. So I would start with that. My group, Secular Houston, has its own endorsement list. It's more in the greater Houston area, but also some statewide races. Again, this is me personally and our little endorsement committee. We did do the work to say, hey, these people are worth it. And again, just do a little extra. If you don't vote, then vote. If you're already voting, there's something extra you can do. And I need everyone to just do that little bit, and our voice gets out there, and that goes a long way.
Well, I just made a fresh pot of homemade chili today. So, Will, if you want to drive over, you can get a bowl of chili. You can check out all the snakes. But if not, then I look forward to seeing you whenever we're doing a reptile show in Conroe in a month or so, which might be in visiting distance while we're down there because we're definitely going to have to stay in the area. But huge thanks to Will for doing the show today and for all the work that he does on behalf of American Atheists, on behalf of Secular Values, on behalf of Secular Houston. You can find all the links down below, and you can also find links to both linemerch.com and patreon.com/calltheline. Do not forget about LineCon Online this weekend. If you're a patron at the $15 level, you can come and join that. And next month will be free. Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Fuck RFK Jr.